You're good.
Hello, I'll call this meeting to order. Confirmation of the agenda that the Council of Township of North Huron hereby accept the agenda for March 1st, 2021 council meeting as presented. Do I have a mover? I have Kevin and I have Paul seconding. Excuse me. Carson, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you, Your Worship. So that'll be a recorded vote. So Deputy Reeve-Sight.
Yes.
Councillor Falconer.
Yes.
Councillor Heffer.
Yes.
Councillor Van Hitterson.
Yes.
Councillor Palmer.
Yes.
Councillor McBurney.
Yes.
And Reeve Bailey.
Yes.
So that motion carries 7-0.
Thank you very much, Carson. 3 is disclosure of pecuniary interests. Anybody have a pecuniary interest? Not seeing any, we shall move on.
Bailey,
Yes, go ahead, Deputy Reeve-Sight.
sorry, I do have I have to declare. I have a declaration for check number 506361 that's on the bills of accounts. That check is made out to my spouse, Tiffany Sipe, who is an employee of the municipality in the daycare department. So I will not be voting on the bills and accounts or the consent agenda.
Thank you kindly. Public comment. This is an opportunity for members of the public to speak to any item of business on the agenda with 2 minutes per person. Is there anybody out there who would like to speak? Judy Sloan, I know you did want to talk. Are you on yet?
She's not on here, Bernie.
Okay. Judy and I have spoken for the last few days and emailed back and forth. And if she can make it, she wanted to speak about her and the Threshers' support for what the Blythe BIA and the theatre in Blythe are trying to do. I will let, if someone sees her come on, I would like to stop the meeting and allow her 2 minutes. And we shall move on until then. But Carson, if you see her, if you would let me know, we will give her that opportunity, okay? That's okay with council. Okay, we shall move on then. Consent agenda. That the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby adopts consent agenda 5.1.1, and further that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby gives consent items 5.1.2 to 5.3.3 for information. Do I have a mover? I have Rick McBurney moving, and I have Anita Henderson seconding. And I will hand it over to you when you're ready, Carson.
Thank you, Your Worship. So if there's no discussion on any of those consent agenda items, then I'll call the vote. So Councillor Falconer?
Yes.
Councillor Heffer?
Yes.
Councillor Van Hitterson?
Yes.
Councillor Palmer?
Yes.
Councillor McBurney?
Yes.
And Deputy Reeve-Sight declared a conflict of interest on the consent agenda. So Reeve Bailey.
Yes.
So that motion carries 6-0.
Very kindly. Next is number 6, public meetings, hearings, and delegations. We have 3 tonight, and I would request that I don't want to sound rude, but I would request if the speakers could keep it to 10 minutes or less. I believe the last time we had 3 speakers, this council left at 12:30 or 1 o'clock in the morning. So kind of keep that in mind as you're doing your presentation. So we'll start with 6.1, Steve Jackson, Maitland Valley Conservation Authority, Wingham and Area Flood Plain Mapping Update. Stephen, are you there?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Reeve Bailey.
You're welcome.
Great. So Carson's going to advance the slides for me. So I'm going to be talking to you about the floodplain mapping update that includes both areas of North Huron and Morris Turnberry. Next slide, please. So overall, our project is about 6 months delayed, largely, well, almost entirely because of COVID and needing to to delay our public information center. We are at the stage where mapping has been approved, just as I guess a spoiler alert. Next slide, please, Carson. So one of just a quick review of the mapping. One of the big questions we get is what the storm event that's used to define the mapping. So the province of Ontario defines that storm as if from Hurricane Hazel. And you'll notice on this graphic, when Hurricane Hazel came through, actually the greatest rainfall amounts were in the Woodbridge area. So the standard that the province forces us to use is if Hurricane Hazel actually happened right over Wingham, what would be the flooding that would be caused? So we're looking at, again, it's not the flooding that happened in 1954, but what would have happened in 1954 had Hurricane Hazel hit directly onto the Wingham area. Next slide, please, Carson. So in the Woodbridge area, that was about 300 millimeters of rain. So basically a foot of rain, most of it that fell very quickly. So what was done for this mapping is if we did get that 12 inches of rain here, and often when we did the Public Information Center, probably one of the most common things people said is, well, we've never seen flooding like this before. And that is because we've never had Hurricane Hazel here before. So the province is directing the Conservation Authority to map as if Hurricane Hazel happened here, which is a flood event that has never happened in this area. And hopefully it never will. Next slide, please. So in order to do the modeling behind what's needed to look at if Hurricane Hazel happened here, we do have existing data to help calibrate our models. So there's gauges upstream of Wingham on the North Maitland, as well as the Little Maitland, the Middle Maitland, as well as right in Wingham at the Helena Street Bridge. Next slide. So the first thing we did when we started the mapping is Maitland Valley staff set benchmarks throughout the area, and then an Ontario land surveyor set the elevations for those benchmarks. And that's one, to make sure we had the correct ground information for all our field work, but also now that the floodplain mapping is done, we have benchmarks that all the elevations can be referenced to. Next slide. And here's just a kind of a zoom in. This happens to be on Bristol Terrace. They're very small markers, about 1 inch in diameter. Usually most of them are on bridge structures. Next slide, please. So the first step, and this was done in partnership with Morris Turnberry, both municipalities got a grant from the National Disaster Mitigation Program to fly LiDAR. And LiDAR basically is quite literally a plane flies overhead. It shoots lasers down, and as it's reflected back, it paints a 3D image of the ground surface. Next slide. So what we're seeing on the screen overlaid on the ortho photo is the LiDAR. So the reds are the highest elevations and the lighter greens are the lowest elevations. And so that gives us very high accuracy. The specification is within 4 inches vertically on hard surfaces, but in most cases we found it was within 1 to 2 inches vertically accurate. Next slide. So once we had the LiDAR, the next step was the consultant tied in all the bridge structures with the total station with the benchmarks that were set and confirmed by the Ontario Land Surveyor. Next slide. And then as well, the LiDAR reflected the surface of the water. So then there was field surveys done in the rivers to get the bathymetry, which is basically where the bottom of the riverbed is, and that gave cross sections throughout the area to improve the model. Next slide. So once we had the modeling to know what Hurricane Hazel was, it's literally that model spits out a volume of water that it's then quite literally poured onto that 3D surface, and that generates our flood depths. Next slide. So a very quick summary. So so the original mapping was done in 1978. So the areas in yellow were in the 1978 floodplain, and they're also in the current floodplain, in this new update. The green areas are areas that were removed from the floodplain, and the pink areas were added to the floodplain. In North Huron, there was actually quite a few areas removed from the floodplain as a result of this more detailed mapping. Next slide. So we did have a public information center. We notified landowners by mail, newspaper, as well as having our website. So that was originally planned for March, but we did it in October from the 28th to 30th. So we set up appointments. 27 appointments were set up, and we spent between 20 to 60 minutes, depending on the small group of people and the number of questions they had. And I will say, a lot of times in public information centers, it's difficult to have really detailed conversations with people. They're 5-minute conversations because there's a lineup of people. So one of the advantages of setting up appointments and doing this over 3 days is we can really spend a fair bit of time with all the property owners in the area and really understand their concerns and have more time to address some of their comments. Next slide. So one of the themes that did come up was there were questions about what the impact of the house and dam was on the floodplain, just with all the discussion with that. So the orangey, the lighter area would be basically the increase in floodplain that is caused by the house and dam. So if the house and dam wasn't there, that floodplain would be removed. So if you notice towards the bottom of your screen, there's where the former public utility building is. There's a well, there's as Park Drive starts, there's some residential areas there. Overall in Morris Turnberry, the overall floodplain isn't a huge difference. But next slide, please, Carson. So in this slide, we're showing where the total area of the dark red and the light red is the floodway. And the floodway is the portion where it's very restrictive for development, the policy, and that's due to either the depth of water or the combination of depth times velocity. So it's basically life safety issues as well as total encroachment on the floodplain. So that lighter area, basically, if it wasn't for the house and dam, it would not be in the floodway. So there are significant portions or large portions of the floodway in Morris Turnberry that are a sole result of the house and dam based on the modeling. Next slide, Carson. So the next step, so the mapping was approved, except for one property where there's still some information passed back and forth with the landowner in Morris Turnberry. But our next step is to meet with your staff and Morris Turnberry staff to develop a series of maps that show flood inundation at various levels. That includes road closures, evacuations, critical infrastructure that could then make up part of your emergency plan. So in a flood event, sort of the boots on the ground could have maps already prepared that shows how that flood will progress. So it makes it easier to knocking on doors to know which order that you should do, as well as having a little extra foresight as far as when critical infrastructure is going to be impacted. Next slide, Carson. I think we're.
That's your last one there. Oh, actually, maybe not. Yeah, that's your last one.
That's my one. So there we go. I think I'm very close to just shy of my 10 minutes there, I believe.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jackson. We appreciate that. So would you be the person somebody would call, because in East Wawanosh I have somebody call me about the new flooding area that was on his land. Would you be the person he would call to have a conversation with?
There are a number of, there's other staff that could handle that, but you could direct them to me and then I would then direct them to the appropriate staff person.
Okay, I will do that, Stephen. Thank you. Okay, questions and comments for Stephen? Go ahead, Paul. Mr. Hepper. You're muted.
Sorry, through you, Reeve. Bailey, a question for Steve there. It looks like on that map that the ideal supply and property would have been still in the old floodplain by the looks of it. Like it wouldn't have been able to be built on.
Yes, through you, Reeve, Bailey, that is correct. So in the old mapping where the new ideal supply was constructed, that was, it was actually in the floodway portion of that 1978 mapping. So the reason ideal supply could be constructed there was because of the mapping update that North Huron supported.
Thank you.
I have Christopher Palmer next.
Yeah, through you, Reeve. It's also to Jamie, I think. Steve, you mentioned a well. Did I hear you say a well could be in the floodplain?
So the well head is raised above the flood elevation, but it is surrounded by floodplain.
Okay, I guess the question is how protected is it? And that would be to Jamie.
Our well is fairly high, and there's protective measures in place, but I can obtain further information for council. It's Wingham's Well 4. That's close to the river there.
Anyone else have any questions? Go ahead, Deputy Reeve Sight.
Yes, my question is for Steve. I just want a clarification on, so as you say, as the portion of the floodplain as a result of the dam, the house and dam. So if the way I understand this is it's purple with the dam in, and if the dam was out, that floodplain would go out to the brown. Is that correct?
Actually, so it's the opposite. So
it's the opposite.
It's the opposite. So if the dam wasn't there, that lighter color would be removed and only the purple would be left.
Okay.
Right now it's larger, and the modeling downstream showed no increase in floodplain if the dam wasn't there. So the dam only causes the upstream issues.
So that is actually quite, just a comment, that is actually quite different than what you would expect based on what, you think of a dam as being a helper of floodplain and helping of flood management, but this is telling me that's the exact opposite, is it's actually, without the dam, the floodplain would change. In a sense that, and now I'm not going to here to get into a discussion about the dam. It just for me logically it doesn't seem like, that's why I was mentioning it, is wanted to make sure that I was clear as to if the dam was not there, then we were talking about the purple item. Because the dam's there, it's actually larger. The area is larger on the floodplain. So it's interesting. That's just an interesting comment. Thanks.
I would follow that up with, and I've had conversations with some of your staff when I was looking at the land in a different location, but it's ironic that I sit on my front porch, which is 25 feet higher than the beer store, but I believe my driveway is in the floodplain, but as somebody just said, we were allowed to build the new ideal supply 40 feet below my house. So anyway, that's not for now or here, or it doesn't really matter. But it is comical, and I've had that conversation with your people, and we find it rather fun. Okay, anyone else? Okay, I want to thank you very much, Mr. Jackson. We do appreciate the update, and you stay safe.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. 6.2. Oh, before we go to Dave Sparling, I did see that Judy Sloan is on now, and I'm going to ask Carson whether it would be appropriate at this point in time. She wanted to speak for the 2 minutes, but didn't quite make the bell. Is with council's permission, could she have her 2 minutes now?
So Reeve Bailey, if my understanding is correct, and she would be speaking in relation to item 6.2 anyways, if that's correct, so it might be prudent to let David and Shane make their presentation, and then maybe before going into questions of the presenters, she can speak to that, or you could do it oppositely. It's completely your call.
I do appreciate that. Why don't we have Stephen and Shane speak to it, and Judy, you can follow, and then we'll have an open debate with council. Thank you very kindly. So Dave Sparling, if you're there, the floor is yours. David?
Unmute.
Yeah, thank you. Did I lose everyone?
I'm here. I can start if you want, Bernie.
Yeah, David's just muting and unmuting.
There we go.
Okay.
All right. Well, first off, thank you very much for giving us a few minutes to talk about the Blythe Campground and what the BIA sees as some exciting opportunities. And in essence, what you're looking at is going to be a brief summary of about 45 minutes of Googling as to what's going on with campgrounds, and then also a 10-minute phone call with South Huron about their small municipal campground. And the net result is with nominal funds and a little bit of effort, we could wind up with something that's pretty neat and beneficial to the municipality and certainly the businesses in Blythe, which of course is our constituency. With me tonight is Shane. He's our vice chair, and Shane's going to take the first handful of slides, and then I'll pick up the back end of the presentation.
Hi everyone. I'd like to start off just with the trends for the campgrounds that have been coming out. Coldwell Banker, Richard Ellis is basically a real estate company that deals with large commercial property and larger properties. And they did a study on camping that shows kind of what the trends are and what has been happening and what's going to be happening as part of COVID and everything else. Tent camping and RV camping basically make up 83% of campers. The most important to campers, like you can see there, so the majority of campers would be somewhat that would stay at in our facilities. The most important, if you go to the next slide, Carson, the most important things that people look for when they go camping are basically clean bathrooms. Oh, wait, here we go. Yeah, more people are camping now than have been before, because with COVID, a lot of people are now, trying to find another way to spend time with the family and whatnot. So if you go to the next slide, it shows the here you go. The kid-friendly location, atmosphere of the place. People want the biggest thing they want. Kid-friendly has actually used to be number 2, but it has moved down to number 4, probably because everybody's been homeschooling their kids for the past year. So now pets are more important than kids, but that kids are allowed. But clean bathrooms is number 1. Pets area and self-guided activities are the things that are people they're looking for. Now we have those things in Blythe already. We have the G2G Trail, which is minute walk away. You've got shopping. You've got cowbell. You've got lots of things to do there that can be done quite easily. You can keep going, Carson, on the slide there. I think that'll go to the next one that we already put up. Yeah, so you can see there how it's changed over the years from 2014 to 2018. It's all the main things are those things, and we have those things. So the majority of the things that we have, that we need, we already have. So that's a bonus for everyone. What we're really missing is picnic tables and fire pits, basically. We have water, we have electricity, we have those things. But picnic tables and fire pits is what we actually. Now, we're estimating probably 10 to 12 grand would put 20 spots that we could actually turn into spots actually used all summer long. Then we remove those things so that set it back up. The threshers want it for that weekend. Slide, Carson. But the least important thing that we have is organized recreation, 10 hours of operation, an exercise facility there's lots of place to get extra. The trends, go ahead and switch that one. The trends for, according to Blog RV Life, are tending to go, people either camping with tents or they're going to smaller recreational vehicles, ones that are basically designed to be off grids. Have composting toilet, you have solar chargers on the battery, or even a generator built into the unit. They're smaller, they're more maneuverable, they're better on gas. That tends to be the trend that people are going toward. And the COA campsite, if you go a couple more slides, I think that'll go to the COA one. They're the largest camping company in the United States. And they're saying, what they're saying is in 68 to 70% of people want to camp close to home. They want to go to places that are less crowded because of COVID-19, and they want to try someplace new. Well, again, we have all those things. They already exist. We want to take care of those. And 46%, the interesting thing is 46% of campers that are camped in 2019 were first timers or people that haven't camped in years because of COVID. Now, this to me is basically a gift horse for us. We can do something minimal with it and make it happen, make some money for us, make some money for the county, and bring people to Huron County, bring people into Blythe. And I think that's, as far, from my opinion, I think it's a smart way to go. I'm going to turn it over to David, let him finish off, do the last 5 minutes. Thank you.
All right, there we go. Carson, if you could go to the Marcus Lemonis slide.
Do you know
Maybe
what
one more?
slide?
One more. That'd be one more after this one. So it'd be slide 17. So Marcus Lemonis is the CEO of Camping World, which is the largest camping equipment, etc. provider in the United States. And he published a 2021 camping trends article. And you may have noticed we've looked at stuff that's sort of pre-COVID, just before COVID, right after COVID. This is what he's projecting for 2021, which is basically now. Carson, you want to go to the next slide? So first thing is there's been a shift towards local camping. And I like what I flagged here is the upside of this camping trend is it gives people the opportunity to rediscover the beauty of their local communities. We will take that. Next slide. The other trend, and I actually thought that was interesting because in light of COVID, I wouldn't have expected this, but music festival camping or festival camping, which of course fits in with the barn dance, which has historically used the campground. Unfortunately, we'll be ceasing that, but certainly ties in with the threshers. And for the next few years, excitingly for the community, this ties in very well with the Blythe Festival. And that is flagged as a 2021 trend. Next slide. So aside from sort of the research from CBRE or KOA or Marcus Lemonis, bring it to a more local level, we reached out to South Huron to talk about Elliott Park. For those of you familiar with Exeter, this is right on Highway 4. So the road you see to the right on this picture with the cars is Highway 4, and they have 8 sites on the river there. And it's run by the municipality. So we called and inquired about how their camp works. Next slide, Carson. And what we found was very intriguing, very relevant. And it's great to hear what's happening sort of across North America. But when you bring it on a local level and see what can be done and see what works, it actually all ties together. So the Elliott Park has 8 sites. The amenities of those 8 sites are fire pits, picnic tables, and a dumping station. That's it. They are very busy and very popular. Most of their travelers are overnight or possibly a weekend, and the municipality has a 3-night maximum. Starting in 2021, people book their sites and pay for their sites online, so there's no staff interaction, point, click, pay. Comments, the last 2 comments we picked up on, very important if you're a business improvement area. First one is overnight travelers spend a lot of money in town. They often eat supper out. They go for a walk down the main street, and a lot of them will gas up their RV or their vehicle, towing their RV before they leave town. And then the final quote, with COVID, people are looking for somewhere just to get out. 2020 was really good, and 2021 will be the same. So when the BIA looks at this from a high level and then brings it down to a more local level, we see that more people are camping. We see that the site suggests that people are using smaller RVs, not necessarily looking for full hookups, so not looking for having to hook up their septic as long as they've got a dumping station. They're not looking for organized recreation, which I'm not a camper, but I would have thought that would have been something they're looking for, but they're actually not looking for organized recreation. That's one of the least things they actually want out of a non-provincial or non-federal park. They want festivals with their camping, which of course the Blythe Festival is looking at. People are camping local, which favors us. And at the end of the day, one of the biggest growths we're seeing in Blythe in the last 12 to 18 months is the increased traffic on the G2G trail, which runs right beside the campground. And we see all of this and package it all together. And we see, based on the infrastructure that North Huron has, the infrastructure the Threshers have built over the years, that we almost have everything you could be looking for to have a campground that would be offering what people are looking for in 2021. Could you go to the next slide, please? So this is a Huron GIS photo of the campgrounds. And our idea, and understand this is an idea, our board is not composed of people that are campers, but our idea or concept would be to add 20 or 25 sites that have picnic tables and campfire pits. Size the site so that it meets the proper spacing for fire pits. And then North Huron, with the new software apparently, or new web management stuff, has the ability to automate the booking and payment for campsites. And what we'd like to see is basically a small campground for the non-threshers times, for the non-barn dance times, but bigger than what South Huron has. And we think there's an opportunity here for North Huron and for Blythe and for the campground itself. We think it's a win for our businesses in addition, and we also think with the Blythe Festival coming for this summer and foreseeable summers in the future, the ability to camp and tie in a festival show with your camping there is a huge win. So our ask of North Huron out of all of this is we think the idea of automating booking where you point, click, and pay makes sense. We think it's efficient, and frankly, it's the way a lot of people like to do things now anyway. If that's something that the web services North Huron now uses could do, we'd like to encourage that to be implemented. We don't know the exact cost of fire pits nor picnic tables, but an estimated budget of $10,000 to $12,000 we feel would be sufficient to purchase those. And then the last ask would be, is at the end of the day, we're a business improvement area. We want to see this happen because we think it's a good idea, right timing, and a whole lot of things all pointing to how this could be successful. But the actual implementation of how you would, what you do for fire pits, how you'd position the picnic tables, lay out the campsites, that's not our expertise. That's not our thing. We'd like to be part of the process, work with those who are more capable and more knowledgeable. And of course, when I say that, in particular, we're flagging the Blythe Threshers Association to figure out how we could make 20 or 25 lots with tables and campfire pits, and actually the boots on the ground part of this to make it really work. And then the third part of this, of course, would be North Huron Recreation and Facilities to help this all come to fruition. And at the end of the day, this is just a win-win all around when we look at it. And that's basically we'd like to encourage council to look at going with this.
Thank you very much, David. And Sean, we do appreciate your time and your efforts. I'm just would like to hand it over to Judy Sloan from the Threshers. I see she popped in here. So Judy, if you don't mind following up with those gentlemen and give us your views. You're on mute right now, dear. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Reeve Bailey and councillors. My name is Judy Sloan, and I'm the president of the Huron Pioneer Threshers, and I'm speaking on behalf of them. I'd like to address this item on the agenda. Some of you will know that the Threshers built the Blythe camp and installed the hydro and water hookups. We only use it for the 2 weeks surrounding our show in September. It would be great to see it better utilized throughout the camping season, and we are in favor of that. After viewing the presentation, we have a few concerns. Before going forward with this project, the Threshers would like to be involved in all discussions and decisions regarding the use of the campground. We have concerns about the fire pits. Specifically, open fires are not permitted during our show. So we were wondering whether the fire pits would be removable. And it sounds like that's the thought of David and the BI. We also have concerns about the picnic tables. Would they be removed? What about our washrooms and possibly the need for increased security if there's a lot more campers around our, so that our buildings or log cabin wouldn't be broke into. We are happy that you're looking at a better use of the campground, but the Threshers need to be involved with the plans and decisions so as not to interfere with our show, specifically the camping at our show. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Judy. Before I hand this over to council for conversations, I want to point out that our staff was directed by our council to do a overview of our parks, and I forget the proper terminology for it, forgive me. And that they have done and that they're working on. COVID-19 hit and it didn't come to fruition. Another year may go by and it may not come to fruition. So our council and our staff, not our council, but our staff have done what council asked and are continuing to do what council asked. What's happened in the meantime is you have these three groups of people that have come along and they've said, hey, COVID-19 might have knocked us down, but they didn't put us out. We have an idea. We, the community, are going to step forward and work on this together with North Huron and see if we can get it up and going. And they would like to get it up and going this year because, of course, as David has pointed out and Sean has pointed out, camping, and we all should know if we're watching news, camping is a big thing. It's a big thing. So I think this is a great idea. I personally am behind it 110%. But let's open it up to the council. And what I'm looking for is if council likes the presentation, likes what they hear, if we can send it back to staff to do have staff come back with a report involving all of these folks together and how we'll move forward together. As Judy said, we all want to work together. So now I'm going to open up to council. Who would like to speak to this? Go ahead, Mr. Palmer, Councillor Palmer.
Through you, Rave. The only way that I would be interested in this is to know the exact costs of everything. And I know from my own camping, the fire pits are buried in the ground, and it would be a disadvantage to have to pull them out all the time. So I'm not sure, unless there's a different version, but that's something that staff would need to investigate. But I need costs. And then I guess a question to David. Is there more, David? Is this it? Is there a wish list? I need to know. We should all know. You know, there's a lot of land here. Are you thinking more sites, or just leave it at the 25?
I think I think the reality of this is that nobody knows. If you build 20 sites and they're booked every single weekend and absolutely slammed, busy, then it would probably be worthwhile to look at putting in more sites like this. If you put in 20 sites and they're not that busy, then no, I wouldn't suggest more. As far as a grand plan for the campground, the BIA last year passed a motion asking council to establish a committee to look at the bigger picture of the campgrounds, and that will be incorporated with the recreation master plan. And I think some of the bigger picture, longer term parts of the discussion would come out of that. We're looking at this as a 2021 opportunity, and run with this. And then the bigger picture, longer term stuff would come out of a larger, more organized discussion as part of the recreation master plan.
Thank you, David. Anyone else has any questions, comments? Go ahead, Anita.
Thank you, Judy. What are the plans for the treasures for this year? Are they going ahead, or are they not sure yet?
Judy, can you answer that one? Anita wants to know if the Threshers are going to go ahead with their weekend. And you're on mute there. There you go.
Okay. We have not made any decision yet. We're really hoping to do something. It may not be the full show that we usually hold, but we are really hoping to do something, but it's too soon yet to make a decision.
Thank you very kindly. Is there any other councillors have any questions, concerns, or comments? Go ahead, Mr. McMurney.
I think this opportunity is exactly what it needs.
Okay.
The campground's not being used, it might as well be.
Okay. Thank you. Trevor, Deputy Sites, you're muted.
Yes, thank you, Reeve. Yeah, I'm definitely not opposed to the discussion. I think ultimately what I am hearing though is there needs to be some more discussion between the Threshers and the BIA, as well as staff, as to relates to how this could work, how the who, what, where, and how kind of thing. Get back to council as to how that's going to all take out. The biggest, ultimately, the argument for us is our budget is done. Where is this funding going to come from, ultimately, from a council perspective and a staff perspective? So I'm definitely not against. You know, the BIA, the Threshers, and staff having another fruitful discussion and get it on our paper, on our report that says, here's what we think we can do. Here's what we think we can manage. Because I do know that based on what I have heard from staff in the previous discussions is they're going to need some understanding of what they're going to be responsible for as well. so that we can clearly understand, what the requirements are, not only from BIA, but from the staff municipality wise, but also from, the threshers. And the threshers have made some some comments that I think are realistic. They need to understand that there's some assets of theirs that they want to make sure are protected. I think all that needs to be kind of rectified and planned out. But I'm not against, a report coming back to council that says, here's how we think we're going to manage this, and here's how we think we can do it, and then put that vote to a council vote.
Deputy Reeve Sipes, could I take that as a motion? Your statement for have them come back to council, have a report done and come back to council?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that I'll make a motion that the BIA, the threshers, and the staff prepare a report to come back to council with the details for further approval.
Thank you. Just want to throw one quick one out there. Paul's going to second that, but should we be putting the theater in there too, or they're pretty well set up, guys? I'm looking at David when I ask this question. They're pretty well set up and don't need to be part of it.
I'm not sure. I believe, and Judy, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe the theater's been in discussions with the threshers about using washrooms and some of those facilities already. And if that discussion is going on and that's working in that direction, then just leave that be and let it roll. If those discussions aren't going on and there's benefit to them being part of this, then I absolutely will bring them in. But my sort of 100,000-foot understanding is that they've already been in discussions with the threshers for some of the needed facilities, and quite possibly they're likely with Vicky and North Huron staff as well.
Okay, I'm not seeing any objections. And I have Deputy Reeve Sipe first, and I got Paul. Paul, is that a question or are you seconding? You're muted, son.
I'm sorry, I didn't second that. I just wanted in that report mentioned about Elliott Park. I read there back in 19, they're having a lot of things that they had to do with that, from homeless people and whatnot. I want to make sure Elliott Park is in that report coming back to council. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul. Do I have a seconder? I have Kevin Faulkner seconding it. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to hand it over to Trevor. You had another question or comment? You're muted. You're muted. Trevor. Trevor, you're muted. There you go.
Sorry, yeah. I just wanted to make sure I mentioned that, as the BIA has mentioned, and I think everybody, I was mentioned, that the rec master plan is going to take a priority. So I want whatever report comes back, I want it to be understood that it is for 1 year, that this is a 1 year trial base, nothing more, nothing less.
Okay, Carson.
Bear with me just a second here. I'm just finishing crafting this motion.
Okay, and if you don't mind repeating it for everyone, then thank you.
So the draft motion here, and feel free to amend as you see fit, council, but the draft motion on the floor would be that the council of the township of North Huron hereby directs staff to prepare a report in consultation with the Blythe BIA and the Huron Pioneer Threshers Association, outlining responsibilities, costs, details on the experience of Elliott Park in South Huron, and further details for a potential implementation for a 1 year term. So I guess at this point, I'm looking to council to see whether that captures the gist of what the direction you'd like to provide to staff is.
I see everybody shaking their head except for Deputy Reeve. I've lost him. And he's the guy that made the motion, but I think you have, Carson. I'm not seeing anybody objecting. Oh, there's Trevor now. Trevor, he just wanted to make sure that caught your Yeah, I see a yes there, so we can go ahead.
All right, thank you, Your Worship. So just to clarify, the motion on the floor is that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby directs staff to prepare a report in consultation with the Blythe BIA and the Huron Pioneer Threshers Association, outlining responsibilities, costs, details on the experience of Elliott Park in South Huron, and further details for a potential implementation for a one-year term. So this will be a recorded vote. So Councillor Heffer, Councillor Van Hitterson, Councillor Palmer,
Yes.
Councillor McBurney,
Yes.
Deputy Reeve Sight,
Yes.
Councillor Falconer,
Yes.
and Reeve Bailey.
Yes.
So that motion carries 7-0.
I want to thank all of you folks that come out and all you folks that have volunteered to help us with this. And I know we're going to have a successful first year, and we will continue on from there as far as I'm concerned, because I like it when it works. And we'll have that discussion another time, but I hope to hear back from you very soon. Thank you very much for coming out tonight.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too. 6.3, joint public meeting of the official plan amendment, OPA 14, the zoning bylaw amendment Z01-21 Galbraith. Location, part lot 30, concession 14, which is 86601 Beecroft Line, East Wawanosh Ward. Application owners are Manith Brown, planning consultant, and Keith and Carol Galbraith. And I'm going to hand this over to Monica, I believe.
Yes, thank you very much, Reeve Bailey, and good evening, Council. Carson's just uploading my presentation. Here we are. This is an official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment. The location of the subject property is just adjacent to Whitechurch. Advance to the next slide, please, Carson. The owners of the property are Keith and Carol Galbraith, and Monteith Brown Planning Consultants are representing them as the applicant. The address of the property is 86601 Beecroft Line, but the portion of the property that's affected has access off of Amberley Road. The legal address is part of Lot 30, Concession 14, East Wawanosh Ward in the Township of North Huron. Next slide, please. So this is a public meeting for the official plan amendment and the zoning bylaw amendment. For the official plan amendment, the current designation is urban as part of the settlement area of Whitechurch, agriculture, natural environment limited protection, and natural environment full protection. And the proposal is to change the designation on a portion of the subject property. This portion of the subject property is also the subject of a severance application. So for the proposed severed area, the proposed designation change would be urban with a special policy area and natural environment limited protection and natural environment full protection. So the severed area would be brought into the urban settlement area of Whitechurch. So that would be the urban designation. And then the special policy area provisions would apply to the portion of the severed property that was previously designated natural environment to protect that area and not allow development in that area, but allow it to be severed. For the zone change, the zoning is changing from the current zoning of R1, AG1, with R1 is residential low density, AG1 is general agriculture, NE1 is natural environment full protection, and NE2 natural environment limited protection. So that's the current zoning on the portion of the property that's affected by the severance and official plan amendment. The proposed zoning after the severance is completed, the official plan amendment is completed, and the zone change is completed, would be to go to R1, residential low density, for the portion that is being severed. And the remaining property would be zone, the remaining portion of the property that is being severed that's outside of the current general agriculture zone would be zoned natural environment full protection and natural environment limited protection. And so that zoning would further protect the existing natural environment. No construction or development would be allowed in the natural environment zone. Next slide, please. So the proposed amendments, as I've mentioned, permit a settlement boundary expansion, and they coincide with the severed parcel. We'll be speaking to the severance application later. And the purpose of this severance is that the applicant wishes to construct a single detached house that would be located in the existing AG1 or general agriculture zone lands with an appropriate setback from the natural environment areas. In order to achieve this, we have the zoning bylaw amendment from AG1 to R1, and also the official plan amendment to take agriculture and natural environment lands to zone them as urban with a special policy area. And as I mentioned before, the special policy area allows the severance, but prohibits development within the previously designated natural environment areas. Excuse me. At the time of writing my report and preparing this presentation, no objections were received from township staff or agencies. And one neighboring family had expressed concern with the proposed development's proximity to the natural heritage. And they also were concerned about privacy issues with the application adjacent to their property. And I believe they are in attendance at tonight's meeting and may wish to speak about their concerns themselves. Next slide, please. So the figure that's shown on the current slide shows the subject property. So the property that Mr. and Mrs. Galbraith own with access off of Beecroft Line has an existing house on it. And the property also has a small finger of land that pokes out onto Amberley Road and is part of the settlement area of Whitechurch. The purpose of the proposed severance and the proposed official plan amendment would be to add land to the settlement area of Whitechurch, to enlarge the settlement area of Whitechurch in the area where the proposed severance is happening, to allow the construction of a house further back from Amberley Road in a location that's more suitable. Suitable in the sense that the area right up adjacent to Amberley Road is part of a wetland area, and there's only a small area to pass through to get back to the proposed house construction area. So with this enlargement, they're creating a suitable construction area. As you can see, the proposed severance aligns with the rear property line of an adjacent property. So in that sense, the severance and official plan amendment constitute a rounding out of the settlement area of Whitechurch. The applicants propose to connect to existing municipal water. The access will be from Amberley Road, and they will have a septic system. And as you can see on this sketch, they have allowed for an appropriate area on the property for their septic system. The next slide, please. This slide shows you the developable area and the proposed severed area. So as you can see, the proposed severed area is a regular shape in order to make a nice rectangular shape, but only a portion of that property is proposed to be developed. So the expansion of the settlement area of Whitechurch would coincide with the red border, but the area where the zoning would be changing to R1 would coincide with that area marked as developable area, and the buildings and structures and septic system would only be located in that area marked as developable area. Next slide, please. This is just a photo that I took standing at Amberley Road and looking out over the subject property. it's hard to see the border of the subject property and the neighboring property in Whitechurch, but pretty much straight back from that gate that you see in the distance to the road is the access lane that gets to the lands in behind, and the portion here is pretty constrained for being able to build the house that the applicants want. So that's why they want to take advantage of the lands in behind. Next slide. So in terms of a recommendation for the proposed official plan and zoning bylaw amendments, these have been reviewed and are consistent with the provincial policy statements and conform to the Huron County official plan and township official plan. It is recommended by our department that the official plan amendment be adopted and forwarded to the County of Huron for approval, and that the zoning bylaw be adopted. In terms of the objection that's coming from neighbors, you may hear more from the neighbors themselves about the nature of their objection. If council wishes to help address the concerns raised by neighbors, what I would offer is that council may wish to make a small change to the R1 zone to provide a special zone for increased front yard and increased side yard setbacks to address the privacy concerns. This is something that I have raised with the neighbors and with the applicants. And unfortunately, through my efforts, I wasn't able to bring the two parties together. So the applicants wish that their application be submitted as applied for. The planning department's recommendation is that the application be approved as applied for. But after council has an opportunity to hear the objections from the neighbor, if they wish to take that on board for their approval, my suggestion would be to consider a special zone. And if that's under consideration, I can provide some more guidance on that later. So for now, I believe those would be my comments on the official plan amendment and rezoning, and there may be some further comments from the agents for the applicant and from the public. Thank you.
Thank you. That was 6.3.1. In there, Monica, did the written comments received? Did you touched on them, but do we have to read them aloud or anything? Because I've got them on next on the agenda.
No, I think we don't need to read all the comments aloud, but we would just make note that there were written comments received from neighbors and that there was a response provided from the applicant.
Thank you very kindly. We're going to go to 6.3.2 then, opportunity to comment on the applicant by applicant and or agent. So the people that would like to do this, would you like to speak to this at this point?
Yes. Good evening, Your Worship, members of council and staff. My name is Hannah Shurtleff and I'm a planner at Monteith Brown Planning Consultants, and I'm joined tonight by Jay McGuffin, Vice President and Principal Planner at Monteith Brown, as well as our clients, Keith and Carol Galbraith. We'd like to thank staff for the opportunity to review the planning report and the proposed amendments in advance of tonight's meeting. We agree with staff's recommendation to adopt the official plan amendment and approve the zoning bylaw amendment as written without any special provisions for increased front or side yard setbacks. The R1 zoning provisions are sufficient as written, and there's no planning justification for increasing those setbacks beyond what's required as of right in the zoning bylaw. Further, any setback increases would result in our client incurring unnecessary costs to bring hydro and water services to the dwelling and clear snow from the laneway in the winter. Our clients have also informed us that moving the dwelling further back from the lot would increase the cost of their home insurance due to the increased distance of the dwelling from the road. We would be happy to discuss this issue in more detail and answer any questions from council or members of the public at tonight's meeting. Our clients also have some information on the proposed development that they would like to provide, so I will now turn things over to Keith and Carol. Thank you.
Hi, thank
So Carol, it sounds
Carol?
like you're having internet issues, so I would, oh, it looks like you shut your video off. Yeah, so you having your video off might help with the internet issues.
Carol, we're not sure if you can hear us. Maybe one of your, Hannah, can you get a hold of her? We're not hearing what she's saying, Hannah. Hannah, we're not hearing what she's saying because it's splitting up so bad. Can you speak for her or get her to shut her video off? And it would probably work better if you can reach.
Yeah,
There you go.
yeah, Keith and Carol, would you like to try without your video? And if not, I have the statement as well, so I can read it if it's still not working.
Our apologies, but we can't hear you, Carol.
Okay. Hannah could do it if
Okay, I can read their statement. So this was provided by the client, so I will be reading it from their perspective. We've owned this property since 1991, 30 years, and have lived here since 2005, 16 years. On the new lot, we want to build a 3-bedroom bungalow with a 2-car garage and a 25 by 40-foot storage shed. I'm sorry, was I on mute there?
No.
And you're back on now.
Okay, I'm sorry. All right, from the top. We've owned this property since 1991, 30 years, and have lived here since 2005, 16 years. On the new lot, we want to build a 3-bedroom bungalow with a 2-car garage and a 25 by 40-foot storage shed behind the house for the tractor, snowblower, cutting deck, and lawnmower. The shed will be built as close as possible, as close to the east side of the property as possible, while adhering to the 30-meter buffer. This storage shed will allow us to keep the property neat and tidy. We are trying to downsize and reduce the maintenance required by us. We are planning on building a house that is senior-friendly with wheelchair accessibility due to Keith's onset of Parkinson's disease. We are not asking for special treatment. Our plans follow all the rules of the Huron County, North Huron, and MVCA. The suggested special zoning for front and west side setbacks dramatically and unnecessarily increases the cost of building. We wish to stay on our reforested land that we planted 11 years ago to enjoy the nature. We hope to plant more trees in the future. 3 rows of trees and the position of our garage will provide our neighbors with more privacy than any residential area in a town, and there is no need for special zoning front or west side setbacks. The house will be exceeding the distance from the west property line by approximately 3 times the North Huron's requirement. We are a quiet senior couple wanting to build a place to retire and grow old in. We hope to have a good relationship with all of our neighbors in the future. So that was the statement that our client wanted to provide.
Thank you very much, Hannah. We appreciate that. We're going to move on to 6.3.3, which is opportunity for comments by others in attendance. Is there anyone else that would like to comment to this?
So, Your Worship, I believe Matt and Margie Beck are in attendance, and they were the individuals who provided the written comments as well.
Margie, if you guys are there, would you like to speak to this? There you are. Yep.
Good evening. I'd just like to start by thanking the council for the opportunity to speak. Over the last year since the Galbraiths have started their laneway for the house build, the traffic down our fence line between our adjoining properties has been increased, and we feel that our privacy has been extremely invaded. For us, we don't see why there needs to be a drivable lane right beside our fence line that basically they can drive down and observe what we're doing. And it just seems like it's a regular basis. If it wasn't a privacy issue, we would look at it as they would have the fence row, a row of trees, if not 2, and then they could still have a lane where they could access their full property and not be basically watching what we're doing on a daily basis. We have 2 young kids, and at times it feels like we don't have any privacy from onlookers. Now, our privacy is being invaded on a regular basis, and we will explain how. When the Galbraiths originally planted the new trees in the proposed area, why did they have to leave a trail right beside the adjoining properties? They had the option to plant a row or two of trees beside the fence, and they would still be able to get around the perimeter of the property. July of last year, they had a male get out of a golf cart, stood on the fence line staring at our property when we had friends over. Our friends will back this up. It's not right that we have neighbors sitting and staring at our young kids or us personally. It just doesn't seem right that we could have so much privacy that we bought this place enjoying and then have that totally destroyed. The trees that removed at the front of the lane, we understand that this is part of the construction process. It's just, we went for 8 years living at this residence, and in that time, nobody that knew us, or sorry, anybody that didn't know that we lived here didn't understand that there was even a house back here. People that I worked with asked why we were building a second lane, but then other people that didn't know that we had lived here didn't even realize there was a house back here. So it's just been a bit of a rough year. We get COVID has been rough for everybody, but if our privacy wasn't our privacy, why did they have to drive down the property line? They could easily have a row of trees there. And honestly, if they were to plant a row of trees in line of that trail that they drive down every day, I don't think this would have been such an issue. I wouldn't be opposed to them building so close. It's the fact that we constantly see them, and it's constantly them looking in at us and what we're doing. So I apologize for that, but it's been a rough year, and we know if this is to continue, it's not going to make for a good neighbor relationship. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we're going to go to 6.3.4, opportunity for questions or comments from council members. And Carson, I can't see the full council, so if you could make the change. There's too many on the.
Yep, so you should have all of council in front of you, Reeve Bailey.
Thank you. I'm going to start with Kevin Faulkner. Councillor Faulkner, go ahead.
Thank you, Reeve. I guess I have a question for Matt. Is there room on your side of the fence to plant trees?
There is limited room. We do have a fiber optic cable that comes in from the road, so that would be part of the issue that we would have to move around that. We know that after how many years the roots can get into that, and our fiber optic would be destroyed.
It's generally the privacy issue for a homeowner is with the homeowner, not the adjacent property. Like if you wanted a fence, you could put up fence, that kind of thing. I just don't know the full grasp of your request to deny a permit to someone to build a home, much the same as you were permitted to have a home there in the same areas.
I'm not denying them the request to build. It was just that we figured it would be better in the interest of everybody if they didn't have to live right so close, since they're doing the building consultation now. They've got the time, and they can make changes now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Other councillors? Go ahead, Councillor Palmer.
Yeah, through you, Reeve. Thank you very much. It seems like the Galbraiths to do things right. They have succeeded. They've passed all the regulations required of them, everything. I thank Monica for the good job done here. And, you know, the idea that they're further away from the fence line, you know, they could have been 10 or 3 meters. And then how would you have liked it, you know, Mr. and Mrs. Beck? But they're allowed to. Instead, they went about 10 meters out. So that's a good thing. The garage, if you look at the map there, the diagram, the garage is a buffer. It's in between. It's on a 45-degree angle. So that further expands on the buffer zone between the two families. Like, those are good things. They've got trees planted. The location of their actual driveway, I'm not sure where that will be. That could be a negotiating thing. But, you know, do you have an ATV? Are you running around too? Like, you know, it goes both ways there. Let's see now, you got to remember privacy. I live in a village. There is no privacy. And what Councillor Faulkner says, you make your own. It's plain and privacy in a hamlet, village, town, city, wherever. So, you know, you've had 8 nice years, and that's good, but there's always been that opportunity, the opportunity beside you, and, you know, it's happening right now. So they've met the requirements of the planning department and the government, and, you know, so, you know, I think that I urge council to, you know, I hate using the word ignore, but that one little part of the recommendation of Monica's recommendation, it says may, which is a suggestion. And I would urge council just to ignore that part of the recommendation, and so that they can just move ahead as it is. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Palmer. Any other councillors like to speak to this? I am not seeing any. Oh, Mr. Heffer, Paul, you're on mute. Mr. Heffer, you're on mute. Thank you.
Thank you, Reeve. Yeah, this is for Monica. I couldn't quite hear her. She said there were complaints, and it sounded like, was it neighbor or neighbors that she said? I just like clarification on that.
Through
Monica?
you, Reeve Bailey, there was only one objection, and it was from the Beck family.
Okay.
So if I used the word neighbors plural, it was referring to the family themselves.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any other councillors have any questions, concerns, comments? Last call. Okay, not seeing any. We're going to move on to 6.3.5, summary of the comments and recommendations of the Huron County Planner Development Department. Monica, please.
Reeve Bailey, did you want me to give a summary of my recommend? Oh, here, yes. So my recommendation is the application for official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment be approved as recommended in my report. And following the vote on that, I can give some guidance about the effect of public comments on the decision of council.
Okay, and just to refresh my memory, I believe Councillor Faulkner, or sorry, I'm doing an old man moment here. Somebody asked that the last part of that be drawn out. Chris asked for the last, yeah, sorry. Chris Palmer asked for the last part of that to be drawn out if you're talking about the final statement.
So just to clarify, Your Worship, so Councillor Palmer asked that the May recommendation that he was referring to would be the special zone piece be left out. So the draft motion before council would not include that special zone as presented right now. The draft motions before council are the recommendations of Monica to basically approve the application as submitted.
Thank you. Do I have a mover? I have Chris Palmer moving. Do I have a seconder? I have Paul Heffer seconding. I will open it up to Carson when you have a moment to take roll call.
So just to clarify, we'll start with the motions for the official plan amendment, and then we'll move into the motions for the zoning bylaw amendment.
Okay.
So the first motion here is for the official plan amendment, and the motion on the floor is that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby adopts official plan amendment 14 as it applies to part lot 30, concession 14, 86601 Beecroft Line, East Wawanosh Ward, Township of North Huron, County of Huron, and further that the application be forwarded to the County of Huron for approval. So this will be a recorded vote.
Yep. Well, you already have a mover and second. Yes, go ahead. Sorry.
Yep, so your mover is Councillor Palmer and your seconder is Councillor Heffer. So Councillor Van Hitterson?
Yes.
Councillor Palmer?
Yes.
Councillor McBurney?
Yes.
Deputy Reeve Sight? Deputy Reeve Sight, you're muted, sorry.
No.
Councillor Falconer?
Yes.
Councillor Heffer?
Yes.
And Reeve Bailey?
Yes.
So that motion carries 6-1 with the no being Deputy Reeve Sight. So your next motion here is the recommendation, the effect of public comments on the decision as it relates specifically to the official plan amendment. So I don't know, Monica, whether you had a recommendation or whether it's beneficial for me to put that slide back up on the screen.
Monica, do you have a
If you
recommendation?
wouldn't mind putting that slide back up on the screen, Carson, that would be great. I'm just double checking one thing quickly on my database here, if I can. I'm just trying to check if there were any supportive comments from agencies. I don't think we got any comments, no. So the recommendation for the first column for the effective agency comments would be that no comments were received. Sorry, I guess the first column is effective public comments. So the first column A, the effect of public comments on the decision of council. Concerns were raised, but it did not influence the decision. Public comments were received on the issue of privacy. Sorry, got that wrong.
Take your time.
Number 5, comments raised did not influence the decision. Public comments were received on the issue of privacy. Comments were thoroughly considered, but the effect did not influence the decision of council to approve the application. So for column A, concerns raised by the public, I would recommend 5A.
Thank you.
And then I'll move on to the effective agency comments. My recommendation would be, since no comments were received, no agencies were received on this application, so there was no effect on the decision. 2B.
2B. Thank you very kindly. And for that, I will look for, I have to wait till the slide goes down. And I'll look for a mover and seconder. Thank you. Do I have a mover? I have Deputy Sipes moving. I have Mr. Faulkner seconding. And when you've got a moment, Carson, I'll hand it back over to you.
Thank you, Your Worship. So the motion on the floor is that for official plan amendment 14, as it applies to part lot 30, concession 14, 86601 Beecroft Line, East Wawanosh Ward, Township of North Huron, County of Huron, public comments were received on the issue of privacy. Comments were thoroughly considered, but the effect did not influence the decision of council to approve the application. And no agency comments were received on this application, so there was no effect on the decision. So this will be a recorded vote. So Councillor Palmer?
Yes.
Councillor McBurney?
Yes.
Deputy Reeve Sight?
Yes.
Councillor Falconer?
Yes.
Councillor Heffer?
Yes.
Councillor Van Hitterson?
Yes.
And Reeve Bailey?
Yes.
So that motion carries 7-0. So now we have the next draft motion on the floor, which is the zoning bylaw amendment. So the draft motion reads that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby approves the zoning bylaw amendment file Z0221 as it applies to part lot 30, concession 14, 86601 Beecroft Line, East Wawanosh Ward, Township of North Huron, County of Huron. So this will be a recorded vote. So Councillor McBurney?
Yes.
Deputy Reeve Sight? Councillor Falconer?
Yes.
Councillor Heffer?
Yes.
Oh, and actually, sorry, did I get a mover and a seconder for that?
No, but I was going to touch on that.
Okay, so we'll back it up a bit. So if you want to get a mover and a seconder, Reeve Bailey.
I'll move it.
I have Mr. Palmer moving. I have Mr. Heffer seconding, and I do apologize, Carson.
So we'll just back up that vote again now that there's actually a motion on the floor. So Councillor McBurney,
Yes.
Deputy Reeve Sight,
Yes.
Councillor Falconer,
Yes.
Councillor Heffer,
Yes.
Councillor Van Hittersum,
Yes.
Councillor Palmer,
Yes.
and Reeve Bailey.
Yes.
So that motion carries 7-0. So now we'll turn it over to Monica again to provide the effective comments on decisions as it relates specifically to the zoning bylaw amendment.
Thank you, Carson. The recommendation would be the same as the previous. So 5A and 2B would be my recommendation.
So the motion on the floor would be that for zoning bylaw amendment file Z0221 as it applies to part lot 30, concession 14, 86601 Beecroft Line, East Wamanach Ward, Township of North Huron, County of Huron. Public comments were received on the issue of privacy. Comments were thoroughly considered, but the effect did not influence the decision of council to approve the application. And no agency comments were received on this application, so there was no effect on the decision. So if you want to get a mover and a seconder, Reeve Bailey.
Yep. Do I have a mover? I have Mr. Faulkner moving. I have Anita Van Hittersum seconding.
Thank you, Your Worship. So Deputy Reeve Sight,
Yes.
Councillor Falconer,
Yes.
Councillor Heffer,
Yes.
Councillor Van Hittersum,
Yes.
Councillor Palmer,
Yes.
Councillor McBurney,
Yes.
and Reeve Bailey.
Yes.
So that motion carries 7-0.
Just to confirm before we read this last motion, is this the one where we take this section out, or it was another? I'm fine to read it.
Nope. So you've covered all the motions now for the public meeting. So we're good to end the public meeting here, and you'll go into reports. But the first report in there is the accompanying severance application that accompanies this zoning bylaw amendment and official plan amendment.
Okay, so that we're doing. We're going to leave at item 6, and we're going to go to item 7, the reports, the clerk's report. And that's the consent application report, file C02-21. Owners Keith and Carol Galbraith, Moncrief Brown Planning Consultants. Property description, part lot 30, concession 14, 86601 Beecroft Line, East Wamanach Ward, Township of North Huron, County of Huron. That the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby recommend approval and consent application file number C02-21, owner applicant Keith and Carol Galbraith, Monteith Brown Planning Consultants, property description, part lot 30, concession 14, 86601 Beecroft Line, East Wamanach Ward, Township of North Huron, Huron County, with the consent conditions set out in the Huron County Planning and Development Report presented by Monica Walker Bolton at the March 1st, 2021 council meeting. Do I have a mover? I have Chris moving. I have Paul seconding. And it's yours now, Carson.
I'm actually going to hand this over to Monica. She has a presentation specifically for this consent application.
Thank you, Reeve Bailey. Thanks to the clerk person as well. I will go through this briefly, but there are a few points that are distinct for the consent application that I will highlight. So this is a consent application. It means that the final approval is with County Council. So at the moment, we're looking for a recommendation from North Huron Council. Next slide. So this is consent application CO2 for 2021. The area severed will be 8.5 acres of vacant land. As I described in my previous presentation, there's a portion that's currently designated agriculture, and there's a portion that's currently designated natural environment. The buildings and structures will be located in the area that's currently designated agriculture, and the area that's designated natural environment will be protected with a special policy area and will remain having natural environment zoning. The purpose of the application is to construct a house and shop. And on the retained property, there is an existing single detached dwelling and a shed. Next slide. So the official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment are required as recommended conditions of the consent. So they will appear as two of the recommended conditions. So in order for the whole consent to be completed, the official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment will need to be completed. The consent is, as I've mentioned, is for the purpose of creating a building lot, and it will be part of the settlement area of Whitechurch. We did receive comments from agencies, but there were no objections or concerns raised. We received positive comments from the Maitland Valley Conservation Authority, the Huron County Public Works Department, and confirmation was provided from the Huron Kinloss, where water is provided, that water services are available. One neighbor or a neighboring family expressed concern with privacy issues that have been previously discussed, and it was not resolved in the previous file. So it would be our recommendation that this application be approved. But moving on to the last couple of slides here before I give my final recommendation. Again, this is the image of the severed property. So the most important thing that's relevant to this application is that the area in gray is the severed, and the area outlined in the red is the proposed retained lands. So that would be the effect of this severance. And the next slide, please. And again, you can see the proposed area for the severance outlined in red, with a portion of the property that won't be developed and a portion that will be developed. And the next slide is just my photo from my site inspection that you've seen previously. So the final slide would speak to my recommendation. The proposed consent is consistent with the provincial policy statement. It conforms to the Huron County and Township official plans. It is supported by a application for official plan amendment and rezoning that have been voted on for approval. And those were supported with comprehensive review provided by Monteith Brown. So it is recommended that the application be approved with the recommended conditions. Those would be my comments on the severance application for now.
Hey, thank you, Monica. Do I have a mover and a seconder, Carson?
Yes, you do, Your Worship.
Thank you. I will hand it over to you then.
Thank you, Your Worship. So if there's no comments, then the motion on the floor is that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby recommend approval of consent application file C0221, owner applicant Keith and Carol Galbraith, Monteith Brown Planning Consultants, property description, part lot 30, concession 14, 86601 Beecroft Line, East Wawanush Ward, Township of North Huron, County of Huron, with the conditions set out in the Huron County Planning and Development Report presented by Monica Walker-Bolton at the March 1st, 2021 council meeting. So Councillor Falconer?
Yes.
Councillor Heffer?
Yes.
Councillor Van Hitterson?
Yes.
Councillor Palmer?
Yes.
Councillor McBurney?
Yes.
Deputy Reeve Sipe?
No.
And Reeve Bailey?
Yes.
So that motion carries 6-1 with the no being Deputy Reeve Sipe.
Thank you kindly. Okay, moving on. We have no Finance Department reports tonight, no Rec Department reports tonight. Public Works and Facility, the storm outlet lease extension agreement. On this one, is Jamie going to speak to this one? Or
That's correct, Your Worship.
Thank you. I'm going to let Jamie go ahead first then.
All right, thank you, Reeve Bailey. So this report is, and this agreement is fairly administrative in nature. This agreement has been in place since 2007 with the Township of North Huron and Infrastructure Ontario. It is for a storm outlet in the village of Blythe on the former rail trail, or the former rail line from Goderich to Guelph. And in the agreement, it does show where the outlet is, and there's a diagram from CP Rail indicating what type of culvert it is, and it is just a lease agreement with the Infrastructure Ontario for this outlet. And if there's any questions, I'm here to answer them.
Does anybody have any questions for Jamie? I'm actually not seeing anyone, so that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby receives a report from the Director of Public Works and Facilities dated March 1st, 2021 regarding the extension of the agreement M72456 that is set to expire March 31st, 2021. And further, the Council direct the staff to prepare for the March 15th, 2021 regular meeting an authorization by law to sign the lease extension and amending agreement M72546 between Her Majesty the Queen in Right of Ontario as representative of the Minister of Government and Consumer Services and the Township of North Huron for the lands located as part lot 50 and 51, Plan 179 at mileage 95.03, abandoned Guelph to Goderich right of way, Village Blythe, Township of North Huron. Do I have a mover? I have Deputy Reeves Sipes moving, and I have Councillor Falconer seconding. And when you're ready, you can have it, Carson.
Thank you, Your Worship. So Councillor Van Hittersum, Councillor Palmer. So not seeing Councillor Palmer there. We will consider him absent from the vote. Councillor McBurney.
Yes.
Deputy Reeves Sipe. Deputy Reeves Sipe, you're muted there.
Yes.
Councillor Falconer.
Yes.
Councillor Heffer.
Yes.
And Reeve Bailey.
Yes.
Oh, and actually, Councillor Palmer just jumped back in here.
Oh, plumbing. Yes.
Okay, so that motion carries 7-0.
Okay, thank you very kindly. Fire Department 7.5.1 Fire Dispatch Agreement Renewal with Owen Sound Police Services. Marty, did you want to speak to that one before I call it?
Yes, I can speak to that. Thank you, Reeve Bailey. So attached to my report was the agreement, which also outlined a lot of detailed services that Owen Sound Police Services provide to us. After reviewing the agreement, there were a few notable items, a couple of notable items that had changed from the last agreement. So number 10, if either party wishes to terminate the agreement, it may do so upon giving a minimum of 18 months prior written notice, and the effective date of termination shall be the end of the fiscal year after the year in which notice was given. The previous agreement was 6 months. Number 12, the term of the agreement's 5 years. Number 22, this is a whole new clause that states in the event of a major incident, tornado, requiring additional resources, cost of recovery rate will be charged for dedicated dispatcher to cover the communications oversight. And the fees, I've included a breakdown of the fees in the report. As shown, the increase is $12,256.70, which is phased in over 5 years. So it's it's important to note that the new rates being proposed are the average rates that all dispatchers are going to be increasing this year. And it's all due to the next gen 911 capabilities that are being regulated in 2023. So Owen Sound is a well-respected dispatch agency, and we are very pleased with the service that we are receiving to date. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any comments or questions for Marty before I call? Deputy Reeve Site.
So the only comment that I have is, do we have an understanding or an idea of why such a great big change in the termination clause? Like, why do you need to give them 18 months versus 6?
Through you, Reeve, I don't know why they did that.
The only reason I asked that question is because if you, and the reason I say that is because it's happened when we had the Police Services Board and we had the same agreement. It was 12 months, and if you miss that deadline, you are ultimately pigeonholed into ensuring that you have to give a month and then you release 1 month extra. And again, if for whatever reason, if you don't know when you want to terminate for whatever reason, such as amalgamation or whatever that case may be, you may be pigeonholed into paying for 18 months of something that you won't need. So I'm a little bit, I don't know whether that's consistent. Marty, do you know if that's consistent? Like, does Here in East use Owen Sound as well?
No, Here in East uses Stratford Fire. However, I've never heard of the 18 months. That does seem quite lengthy. And I'm not sure what all the other agencies are doing out there.
So is there time on this contract to send that question back to them? Could we defer this till the next council meeting and send that question back for them and ask them? Because it is quite a long time. Just in case we amalgamate with somebody.
Only thing would be I could do a follow-up report, but we would like to do the report, and if you're going to approve it, do the bylaw at the same time. Is that possible, Carson?
Yeah, so if so the bylaw is not being adopted till the March 15th meeting anyways. So if the fire chief was able to get an answer to that question, that report and the bylaw could be presented on the same meeting for sure.
Any other questions, concerns, or comments for the fire chief? Go ahead, Deputy Reeve Site.
Yeah, that's really only my real concern is the 18 months. Like, obviously, if we get an answer back or there's some more feedback as to some other things that's what they're planning on going to, I guess that's what we have. I think we're happy with the service. I just want to understand the discussion about between 6 months to 18. So I'm okay with the fact that if we want to provisionally approve like this and then wait till, because the bylaw is not going to get approved till 2 weeks from now or whatever, then at least that way we can have that discussion at that time. But I'm okay with the report as is. I just want some follow up from Marty as it relates to that 18 months.
So then my understanding, Carson, is the way it's written stands and we can vote on it?
It's at the discretion of what council wants to go with, right? So council could approve the renewal of the dispatch services agreement, knowing that the bylaw is coming back for adoption at the March 15th meeting, or council can defer the approval of the dispatch services agreement until the March 15th meeting, approve the agreement then, and then also in that same meeting adopt the bylaw. So it's based on what council would like to see and whether council would like to give approval to the dispatch services agreement prior to having that answer.
Okay, I'm going to throw it out there. Go ahead, Deputy Reeve Sight.
I would say based on the fact that the bylaw is coming back on the 15th, I have no issue with deferring the agreement until the 15th and then doing everything at the same time. And I will make that motion.
Do we have a motion to defer? Do I have a seconder? I have Anita seconding. Okay, Carson, I'm going to hand it over to you when you're ready.
So the motion on the floor is that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby accepts the report of the fire chief dated March 1st, 2021 regarding renewal of the fire dispatch agreement, and further that council directs the fire chief to investigate the reason for the increased term of the renewal agreement, and further that council hereby defers approval of the dispatch services agreement until the March 15th, 2021 council meeting. So you have a mover. Yep. So I guess Deputy Resape, are you requesting a change there or anything? Or
Yeah. I'm just making note that it's not investigation on the length of the contract. It's just the length on the termination clause. That's what I think the investigation is. Not that it's a 5-year term or whatever. It's just the clause that says you need to give them 18 months notice.
Yep, and that's a good point. Thanks for catching that. So the motion on the floor now would be that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby accepts the report of the fire chief dated March 1st, 2021 regarding renewal of the fire dispatch agreement, and further that council directs the fire chief to investigate the reason for the increased term of the termination clause in the renewal agreement, and further that council hereby agrees to defer the approval of the dispatch services agreement until the March 15th, 2021 regular council meeting. So if that is satisfactory to council, I will call the recorded vote. So not seeing any other concerns with that. So Councillor Heffer?
Yes.
Councillor Van Hitterson?
Yes.
Councillor Palmer?
Yes.
Councillor McBurney?
Yes.
Deputy Reeve Sight?
Yes.
Councillor Falconer?
Yes.
Councillor Heffer, did I call your name already? Okay, and then Reeve Bailey.
Yes.
So that motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on. There's nothing for childcare and there's nothing for building department tonight. We're going to move on to CAO's 7.8.1 Building Services Agreement. I'm going to read the motion and then we're going to have Dwayne talk to it. That the council
So,
township.
Your Worship, if I could just jump in here. So the draft motion there, staff are seeking direction. So that motion would need to be amended based on the direction council wants to provide.
Every time I read it, he says no. Every time I don't, he says yes. Okay. Okay. So you all know it's sitting on the floor, and there were three attachments with that. And Dwayne, did you want to speak to that first?
Thanks, Your Worship. So this report is in regards to a change regarding the cost-sharing arrangement regarding our building department services. And it's a request we received from Morris Turnberry. So just to provide you a little bit of background, in March of 2018, the two councils passed bylaws, entered into a shared building services agreement. And as indicated on January 22nd, we received requests for a change to the agreement, and the request is specific to the chief building official's salaries and benefits. In accordance with the current agreement, Morris Turnberry is responsible for 60% of the CBO's salary and benefits, and we're responsible for 40%. And Morris Turnberry is requesting that the CBO salary and benefits be equally shared. And the cost to North Huron would be approximately $10,000. There is a provision in the agreement that states that the amounts in the agreement may be varied upon mutual consent of the councils of both North Huron and Morris Turnberry. And so, as indicated, we're seeking council's direction regarding the change that has been requested. The Building Services Department employs a chief building official, a full-time building inspector, and administrative assistant. The CBO, as I've indicated, is 60-40 split. The building inspector salary and benefits are 50-50, and administrative assistant salary is 75-25. With Morris Turnberry paying 75%. All other expenses, including office supplies, phone, fax, internet, fuel, training, internet, utilities, those are all equally shared between the two municipalities. All building department staff are employees of Morris Turnberry. And as per the agreement, a building department staff member spends about 2 half days in the North Huron Town Hall. The remainder of the time is spent at the Morris Turnberry office and or out conducting site inspections. In addition to building services in terms of building permits, the CBO also provides drainage, bylaw enforcement, property standard services, and also attends council meetings for both of the municipalities. In their correspondence, Morris Turnberry advises the information gathered over the last 2 years suggests that the 60-40 allocation of CBO's costs does not accurately reflect the usage of the services. Morris Turnberry states the division of hours spent by the CBO in 2020 was 51.09% in North Huron and 48.91% in Morris Turnberry. And for 2019, 47.9% in North Huron and 52.1% in Morris Turnberry. So I reached out to Morris Turnberry, asked if they could provide me with more detailed information that they gathered over the last 2 years, and they did. And in the report is a summary of the information for each staff member by what I term as a service category. So service categories being building, so that's your building permits, for example, property standards, bylaw enforcement, drainage, and attending council meetings. And upon further review of that information, I think it's worthy to note that the CBO and the building inspector, based on time spent, are spending an equal amount of time on building services. The administrative assistant salary, the administrative assistant is spending more time on Morris Turnberry's building services than North Huron's. The information suggests as well that the administrative assistant is spending more than 25% of their time assisting with North Huron's building matters. The information also provided suggests that more of the CBO's time is being spent on property standard enforcement issues in North Huron than Morris Turnberry. Based on the information provided, to put that into perspective, the CBO spent 71.5 hours attending to property standards and enforcement issues in North Huron, compared to 31.5 hours in Morris Turnberry, which equates basically to a 40-hour difference over a 2-year time period. With respect to drainage, the CBO and building inspector are spending a significant amount more of their time regarding drainage in Morris Turnberry compared to North Huron. And this isn't surprising, on the basis that, Morris Turnberry has significantly more drainage than North Huron does. Over the 2-year period, the building inspector spent 29.5 hours dealing with drainage issues in North Huron and 381 hours in Morris Turnberry. When the building inspector administrative assistance information was requested, the Morris Turnberry advised that the drainage hours for the building inspector in 2020 were uncharacteristically high. And the reason for that is when the pandemic first hit, Morris Turnberry asked him to take home all of their drain files and clean them out and organize them. And that was from April 1st through to May 27th. And indicating that the hours outside of those paid periods are more reflective of the usual drainage hours. And on a go-forward basis, they indicate that he'll continue to be more focused on the building component. The township's cross-border committee members discussed the request, and they asked me to inform council that at the first cross-border committee meeting, Morris Turnberry indicated that the service agreement that they wished to start with was with water and sewer services. The cross-border committee agreement between municipalities, as council is aware, has expired. The cross-border committee also advised that other service agreements, Morris Turnberry advised that other service agreements such as fire and building services remained in effect and force and were not open for discussion at this time. The cross-border committee members recognize that the shared building service agreement is not part of the cross-border agreement. However, in keeping with Morris Turnberry's request, the cross-border committee recommends that the requested change not be considered. So in terms of financial impact, in 2019, North Huron paid Morris Turnberry about $104,000 for building department salaries and benefits. And in 2020, this amount decreased slightly to $102,000. All other expenses were equally shared. In 2019, North Huron paid Morris Turnberry approximately $19,000 for other expenses. And in 2020, this amount increased to approximately $20,000. In 2019, approximately $2,800 was transferred to reserves, and this was due to revenue surplus. In 2020, this amount increased to approximately $7,000, and again, this was due to a higher level of building activity, but as noted, the time spent has been 50-50. Building departments are to be revenue neutral. So for both 2019 and 2020, the amounts paid to Morris Turnberry for the service were within $1,500 of the budget amounts. For 2021, the building department budget has been approved with $112,000 allocated for salaries and benefits and approximately $2,800 for other related expenses. If council is desirous of the change, an over expenditure is likely in the building department budget. But it is recognized that this could be offset by an increase in building activity for 2021. In the absence of undertaking a detailed financial analysis of the hours worked for each service category, rates of pay, and other related expenses, it's difficult to determine whether a financial imbalance regarding the CBO exists. It is also possible a financial imbalance may exist regarding the building inspector. And I think my point here is in terms of you need to consider the whole service. You can't parcel out one piece and not look at the whole service. A full reconciliation, of all expenses required to assess usage of the building department services. In terms of other considerations, in early 2017, a shared service pilot project was dissolved between the two municipalities. One service that did survive out of that pilot project was the building department services. And the service delivery review recently completed by KBMG expressed support for investigating other shared services arrangements. If council is desirous, staff can be directed to present a report regarding building service options if that was the choice of council. The current shared building service agreement expires on December 31st of next year, and you do have to provide 6-month notice prior to the termination date. So June 1st, if you were to think anything of that nature, you have to provide by June 1st of the year that you wish to exercise that. But that's, again, not the subject of the report. The subject of the report is in terms of whether council wishes to support the requested change regarding the cost sharing arrangement to the existing shared services agreement. Any questions?
Reeve Bailey, you're muted.
It doesn't happen often. Go ahead, Christopher.
Through you, Reeve, it's to everybody, I guess. I was taken back when I read that the cross-border agreement committee is recommending something to council and it's out of their mandate. And that goes for any committee out there that thinks that they can, as a group, can influence.
Can I just intervene there? Can I just, we are the cross-border agreement. This is a cross-border agreement. You may want to talk to, you may want to talk to the staff just to get clarification. And we can talk another day. Continue now.
To me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, my issue was that, it was explained, it's not your mandate, but it goes for any committee. That's what I don't want to see, is any committee when it's not their mandate to try and influence council. I just don't like that. So it's just a point. That's all.
Thank you. I'm going to have Deputy Reeve Sipes speak next, and then Kevin Faulkner.
So just a comment to to Councillor Palmer's question. So every committee has a mandate to provide recommendation to council. That is their mandate. That's why they're a committee. If you didn't want a committee, then council would do then the council would be every committee. We've given them committees a reason to satisfy a term in which we are to talk to North Huron and to Morris Turnberry or any municipality, Central Huron or whatever, because the only option is to talk amongst the whole council, and that's not always feasible. So the cross-border agreement committee is established as ordered to set up recommendations as it relates to cross-border agreements. That's what it was intended for. That's what it's always been intended for. If council doesn't want it to be a cross-border committee, then that's council's prerogative. But the mandate of that committee was to have discussions with other municipalities about their cross-border services. That's what the mandate is, and it would be always a recommendation of a committee to provide something, a recommendation to council, because they have all of the feedback and direction and detail as it relates to. Council doesn't have all the detail of the discussions. They can read the minutes just like everybody else, but that is the intent of a committee. If councils don't want committees, then they shouldn't ask, then they shouldn't be looking for recommendations or looking for suggestions. They should just do their own So that's why I just want to make comment of that as it relates to Councillor Palmer's question.
Thank you very much. Kevin?
Thank you, Reeve Bailey. Yeah, my concern is with the request of going to 50-50 split with the added housing that may be coming to North Huron. There's going to be a fair bit of more to do with the building inspector and as far as the paperwork goes in our neck of the woods. And going 50-50, I don't feel comfortable without having some kind of say skin in the game. He's not an employee of ours. That arrangement could be changed by his employer at any time. I would much rather see if we're going to go to a model much as that he be our employee and we supply services to someone else. That way we have control over the situation much more than we are in the position that we are right now. So I would like to see a staff to look at all the possibilities of how to provide this service to North Huron, because we have other neighbors, other ways of doing this business, and it looks like our neighbors aren't happy with the last agreement. So I would like to see more information from staff on other ways of doing business.
We're gonna first good thoughts, Kevin, and we're gonna come back to that. So first of all, I'm gonna throw my 2 cents out there. So we've been a year and a half trying to make the first agreement, and they've never come to the table. I had a conversation with Mr. Green today too, by the way. They've never come to the table. I don't know why you would ever open up a second agreement when they can't even make an agreement on the first one. Okay, so I'm going to recommend that we say no, thank you. We're not opening this one up. Can I get somebody to move that? I have Paul moving it. No, Paul changed his mind. Would somebody like to move that? I'm going to have Deputy Reeve move it. I have
Reeve Bailey.
Councillor McBurney seconding. Go ahead.
Sorry, Reeve Bailey. That I was just before getting a mover for that. I was going to actually move another motion. Actually,
what would that be, sir?
I'd like to move a motion to defer this or submit this request to the cross-border services agreement or to the committee for analyzation when it relates to all of the agreements that we're going to be having with Morris Turnberry.
Paul?
Yes, through you, Reeve. Yeah, I just want to speak my mind. I get a chance like everyone else there. So I feel this has been a very good shared service with the building department. It's right now about 50-50 when we look at the sheets that we get back to us. In this, all that's going on is that we pay for what we use. It's very simple. And we have building going on. And I'd like to see, or I want a smooth working building department. That's why I can't support what the cross-border recommendation is leaving as is. I will be voting yes to change this agreement. Thank you.
So understanding when you open that agreement up and they know all the stuff we've got coming forward, you think it's just going to be a $10,000 increase. That's interesting. Okay, I'm going to hand it out to what other councillors would like to speak to it. Go ahead, Deputy Reeve Sight.
So Reeve Bailey, I believe I put a motion on the floor that was to submit this request to the Cross-Border Services Department Committee for review when dealing with all of cross-border services arrangements.
Here we go.
That's
my apologies.
That was my recommendation.
My apologies, you did. Seconder, please. I have Anita seconding it. Any other comments, questions, or concerns? Not seeing any. Let's hand it over to Carson.
So Deputy, you said, can you just repeat what you said, the end piece, and further that the request be sent to the Cross-Border Services Committee for review of the agreement in like combination with the other cross-border agreements? Is that what you're intending?
That is correct.
Okay, so your draft motion on the floor here, this was moved by Deputy Reeve Stipe and seconded by Councillor Van Hittersum, reads that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby receives the report prepared by the CAO dated March 1st, 2021 regarding a request from Morris Turnberry to change the cost sharing arrangement for building department services for information purposes, and further that the request be sent to the Cross-Border Services Committee for review of the agreement in combination with the other cross-border agreements. So I'll look to the mover and the seconder. Is that the intention of your motion?
Yes.
Okay. So this will be a recorded vote then. So Councillor Palmer?
No.
Councillor McBurney? Deputy Reeve Sight?
Yes.
Councillor Falconer?
Yes.
Councillor Heffer?
No.
Councillor Van Hittersum?
Yes.
And Reeve Bailey?
Yes.
So that motion carries 5-2 with the noes being Councillor Heffer and Councillor Palmer.
Thank you. CEO, we're going to do modernization intake 1 update and modernization intake 2. And Dwayne, I'm going to have you speak to that before I get moved.
Thanks, Your Worship. And this is a long report, and I'll try to move through it as quickly as I can. But there's 3 parts to this report. The first is to update Council on the status of the projects that have previously been authorized using the unconditional modernization funds. The second is seeking Council's approval of allocating the balance of the unconditional modernization funds. And the third is to authorize staff to submit 2 potential projects to intake 2 of the modernization fund program. So with that, on March 20th of 2019, the Township of North Huron, we received a letter from the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing announcing a one-time payment in the amount of $532,076. And out of that, we spent $6,432.77 in 2019, which left a balance of $525,643. The purpose of the funding that we received was to help small and rural municipalities improve delivery services and reduce the ongoing cost of providing those services. There was a report provided to Council previously on February the 20th of 2020. And in the report there, you'll see that Council allocated $207,134 of those funds to various projects. In addition to that, Council also agreed to allocate part of the modernization reserve funds towards a Laserfiche eScribe Connect bundle, as well as purchasing additional Laserfiche licenses, but I'll come back to it in a minute. Just as a reminder, on November 1st of 2019, the Minister announced some additional funding for a service delivery review. We applied and were successful at receiving funding, and we completed that review. As Council is aware, KPMG was retained to complete it, and Council received that report on October 22nd of last year. On January 26th, we received a letter, like many other municipalities, from the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing announcing the launch of a second intake under the Municipal Modernization Program. The purpose of the program is similar to the previous funding announcements that have been made. And it's worthy to note that under this intake 2, we refer to it of the modernization funding, there's 2 streams of possible funding. The first stream is what they refer to as the review stream, and that stream of funding provides 100% funding for municipalities to undertake expenditure reviews with the goal of finding efficiencies and lowering costs in the longer term. And the second is the implementation stream, which provides up to 75% of provincial funding, but the municipality does need to pay 25% of those projects. But a key component of this Intake 2 program is that to be eligible for either stream, so either of those funding streams, municipalities must confirm that it has fully spent or allocated the unconditional modernization funding provided by the province in March of 2019. As noted, Council has allocated or spent $207,134. The amount we received was $532, and basically $320,000 was put into reserves. I did speak with the ministry, and the ministry advised that the money needs to be allocated, doesn't need to be spent, but it does need to be allocated, and funds sitting in a reserve that have not been allocated do not meet the funding criteria. So again, if we do want to apply for Intake 2 funding, we do have to allocate those funds, and staff has some suggestions for Council that's outlined in the report as to how those funds could be allocated. And again, the suggestions in the report are just that, they're suggestions. Council can choose to allocate however you wish. You just need to be aware that the funds do need to be allocated by March 15th, which is when the next intake deadline date is for Intake 2. And this is our last council other than the council meeting of March 15th. So we do need to allocate those funds, ideally at tonight's meeting. I won't, in terms of the previous projects that have previously been approved, that's in the report. I won't go over that. But in terms of allocating the 320,000, we have ideas from a staff's perspective. So the first area for consideration to allocate some of the balance of that 320,000 is towards records management. The implementation of Laserfiche has been and continues to be a substantial project for us. And in terms of moving that project forward in an expeditious manner, it may be prudent to allocate some additional resources towards that project. With the amount of documentation required of the township, the clerk is projecting a shift to an entirely electronic-based records management system to take years. Staff are desirous of making full use of the Laserfiche system, so the project is a worthwhile investment for the township. If full implementation of the electronic records management system does not occur in an expeditious manner, staff fear that only a partial implementation of Laserfiche will occur. We currently have one records management administrative assistant assisting us on a contract basis. That individual's contract, council had previously allocated $30,000. And that contract ends on August the 27th. The employee is doing an excellent job. And so the staff recommendation is that we extend that individual's contract by allocating an additional $50,000 of the unconditional modernization funds. And that would extend that individual's contract until the end of next year. As part of the motion passed by council at the February 20th regular meeting, authorization was given to allocate a portion of the modernization reserve funds towards purchasing Laserfiche eScribe Connect bundle and additional Laserfiche licenses. The bundle program would enable us to publish meeting content directly from eScribe, from the eScribe meeting site to the Laserfiche system, and that in turn would go directly to the North Huron website. So again, it would certainly achieve an efficiency in our part. Scanning of historical records, as I've indicated, is well underway, and the new website is soon to launch. And so we're positioned now to move forward with that. And so the staff recommendation is that we allocate $8,000 of the unconditional modern reserve funds towards the purchase of internet publishing and eScribe. In addition to that, in terms of the Laserfiche licenses, staff recommend that $22,800 of the unallocated modernization funds be allocated towards additional Laserfiche licenses. We currently have 7, and we have many other departments of work that we have to get done of scanning. So there is certainly an increased need for additional licenses. And in terms of the cost, the additional licenses would result in a one-time cost of $18,500. But then there's an annual fee of $4,300, so that's where your $22,800 figure comes from. If all of the above recommendations were approved by council in terms of allocating funds from the unconditional towards records management, the total allocation out of 320 would be $115,500. In addition, another project that we've identified that we feel is worthy for consideration is a town hall accessibility ramp. As previously noted by the clerk and the director of public works, should more funds be required for the town hall accessibility project, the staff recommendation has been that the required funds would be drawn from the modernization reserve funds so that there is no impact on taxation. As council is aware, there's a total of $160,000 in the 2021 budget for that project, and $100,000 of that is from a grant and $60,000 from taxation. There's a total of $16,147 left over from the town hall accessibility renovation office space project. The cost of the accessibility ramp will be contingent on the results of the tender. And knowing this, the staff recommendation is to allocate an additional $20,000 to the project to help mitigate and or reduce the potential impact on ratepayers, not pending the outcome of that tender process. In terms of another project or item for consideration is public works equipment. There are a number of large pieces of public works equipment that are at, near, or have exceeded their expected years of life. The next piece of equipment that is due for replacement is a 2008 John Deere loader. The estimated replacement cost of that piece of equipment is $200,000. To help offset this cost, it's recommended that $100,000 of the unconditional modernization reserve funds be allocated towards, and the staff recommendation is replacement of public works equipment. To give flexibility at this point, the 2008 John Deere loader has been identified as the next piece of equipment to be replaced, but we don't know, something could happen between now and then. So the staff recommendation is really just to allocate it towards public works equipment purchase. Another item is accessibility improvements. As council's aware, we do have the Ontarians with Disabilities Act and the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act. Those are provincial pieces of legislation that require municipalities to address issues around disabilities and barriers to accessibility. Like any other municipalities, we are working towards accessible programs, services, and facilities. Assessments have been completed of town hall and recreational facilities, and there have been some identified areas for improvement. One of the areas that were identified for improvement was in fact the accessibility ramp at town hall. So as you can appreciate, we are acting and moving on that. There are more improvements needed to achieve compliance with the provincial legislation by 2025. So we're recommending that council consider allocating an additional $20,000 of the unconditional modernization funding, continue to working towards an accessible North Huron. Another project for consideration is security at the West Cass Community Complex. As noted above and as previously approved by council, staff are undertaking the necessary steps to improve security at our township facilities. So we have improved security at the daycare, and we've installed cameras at town hall. But we also require additional security measures at other municipally owned facilities, including the West Cass Community Complex. And we recommend $4,500 of the unconditional modernization funds be allocated towards safety at the West Cass Complex. And last but not least, and this is a bit of a catch-all, I'll call it, category. At the October 19, 2020 regular meeting, council received a report from the Director of Public Works and Facilities regarding the outcome of a building condition assessments. And in terms of that report, it's noted that 5 of the township's assessed buildings were in fair to good condition. The estimated short-term defined as 1 to 5 years, maintenance costs for the town hall, if you look at town hall building alone, was $135,550. So as you can appreciate, we're like many other municipalities in terms of we have aged infrastructure and we have to look after it. And as we move forward, council, in terms of looking at our assets, again, there are some that need to be maintained and upgraded. There's other assets that council has indicated or signaled the sale of those assets. And there's been some that there's been discussions about demolishing them. And then there's other assets that we've discussed about repurposing. But as I've indicated, we do have a large infrastructure deficit. We are moving forward and taking steps to lower this deficit, again, by disposing of assets or investing in the asset. And in terms of the balance, when you take approximately 320,000 in terms of taking away the other projects that are recommended, leaves a balance about $58,208.49. And certainly that if we allocated that to our town assets, that would certainly assist us in terms of moving that forward. And I should also mention, in terms of the allocation of the money to these projects, if that was the wish of council, is just that allocating the funds. Nothing would be spent, obviously, out of those funds without council approval. So council certainly, for example, the building maintenance, council would be deciding in terms of how that money was spent. I just want to clarify that. And in your report, there is a summary in terms of what has been previously allocated, and if council was to approve these allocations, what it might look like. But just moving on, I guess, in terms of going back to what generated and why this report is coming forward, is in terms of staff have identified as well 2 potential projects for intake 2 funding. And again, there's 2 streams, the review stream and the implementation stream. For the implementation stream, again, that's a 75-25 split. The staff recommendation here is to make application to hire 2 additional temporary contract people for 2 years to continue on with our scanning efforts. If we were to move in that direction, the total cost to hire 2 individuals to continue on with that work is $140,000. The province's contribution would be approximately $105,000. Our contribution would be about $35,000. And I talked to the ministry, and the $35,000 can come out of our unconditional modernization funding that we've already been given, and that is taken into consideration if that was the wish of council. In terms of the other project that we've identified, information technology service delivery review, and we propose that that would be submitted under the review stream. That would be 100% funded by the province. And if that project was approved, basically it would involve, I refer to it as a deep dive into our information technology. As we move forward with our efficiency and modernization efforts, infrastructure is very key. Infrastructure in terms of the actual physical assets, in terms of servers and computers, etc., but also in terms of the services, in terms of troubleshooting and maintaining our IT. In addition to looking after our, I'll call it our physical assets, they're also looking after our phone system, our website, helping us solve problems that are PIN pads, and integrating software in terms of maintaining the township security systems. So the estimated cost for that work, if council was desirous, is approximately $25,000. But again, if we were to make application, it would be, if we were make application, we were successful, that would be 100% funded through the program. So I will leave it at that, and I thank you for your patience as I work through that.
Thank you very much, Dwayne. I'm going to open it up to council. Go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah, through you, Reeve. Since that funding, it could be used to either extending a contract or turning a part-time job into a full-time job, would it possible to use any of those fundings to help us out in attaining a full-time building inspector instead of a part-time one, and in that kind of to smooth out our, as we said, wanting the buildings to go smoothly as we got some expansion coming up, whether that might be useful as using some of that funding or being able to pledge some of that to for that position.
Dwayne, did you want to respond to that?
Yeah, through your worship, in terms of you're referencing the unconditional modernization funds, Councillor Faulkner, just for clarification. Yeah. So essentially, the funds are intended for that in terms of efficiency and modernization, not intended to fund an existing position or an existing service that already exists. The funds are intended to be used for, I'll call it, additional staff resources, primarily on a temporary basis, not to fund your operational staffing requirements. If I made myself, yeah.
Anyone else? I am not. Go ahead, Paul. You're muted.
To you, Reeve. To Dwayne, just about the accessible ramp out front, you said 160, 100 grant, 60 that through taxation, but I wasn't sure on your report there. Is it just the 20,000, or were you adding that 16,000 and a few dollars in on that too? I just couldn't quite follow you on that.
Through you, your worship, in terms of, and Carson maybe will speak to this better than I can, but the 16 would be the 160 plus the 16 plus the 20.
Yeah, and through your worship, if I could just elaborate on that. So the 16,000 is the amount remaining out of the 50,000 that was previously allocated by council from these March 2019 unconditional modernization reserves. So we've carried out this first accessibility project, right, being the town hall front counter, and we have 16,000 left. So we've transferred that into 2021. So in total for the ramp right now, you have the $100,000 grant, the $60,000 that was budgeted, plus the $16,000 that was transferred from reserves from unspent funds in 2020. The intention of the additional $20,000 is, should the tender results come in higher, you have that buffer, right, where the project can still go ahead. You have a means to pay for it that wouldn't impact taxation. However, should the tender results come in favorable, as both the Director of Public Works and I are certainly hoping for, you have that $20,000 that can be used elsewhere. And certainly council could reallocate that, whether that's reallocating it towards a different accessibility project in order to become compliant with the AODA requirements, or whether that's something completely different. But I guess the intention of that was because we have to allocate it there for now, just to ensure that there's, pending the tender results, we can still fund the project. And then should they come in favorable, we can certainly shift those funds elsewhere, if that makes sense.
Hey, Paul.
Yes. That'd be great if that could go, like it maybe even go to like a help offset the loader, for instance, you're talking about, right? Like, okay, thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Other councillors, anybody want to question what's going on there? It was quite a handful, trust me. Go ahead, Deputy Reeve Site.
Thank you, Reeve. I like the application, or I know we have to allocate the money. I've been a very big proponent for this records management. I think it's an important part of, we've gone far too long to have something done. So I think, to get this, phase 1 is in there, but also look for phase 2 to get these people on board temporarily over the next year to 2 years, to get that finished and get us up to par with where we should be, I think is an important aspect. And I think it only goes back to what we had to deal with when we were looking at the legals as it relates to the selling of that property down by the liquor store, the Campgrounds, when they were trying to sell. That just answers the question about why records management is so important, because we couldn't find documents that we municipality should have had. So I think it's ultimately, for me, I think it's a good news, and I think we should just move on and carry on. Thanks.
Thank you very kindly. Anyone else? Okay, I do not believe I've read the bylaw. I'm not seeing anybody wanting to speak, so I'm going to read the bylaw and ask for a mover and seconder. So the CEO report, modernization intake 2, that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby receives the report from the CEO dated March 1st, 2021 regarding the update on the status of the projects funded by the Modernization Fund for information purposes, and further that the council approves the allocation of the unconditional modernization fund as set out in staff report CEO 2021-07, and further that the staff be authorized to submit 2 funding applications for intake 2 for the municipality modernization funding program for records management application and an information technology third-party review application as set out by the staff report, CAO 2021-07. Do I have a mover? I have Kevin moving. Do I have a seconder? I have Trevor moving. Seconding. Carson?
Thank you, Your Worship. So that'll be a recorded vote. So Deputy Grieve Site. Councillor Falconer. Councillor Heffer.
Yes.
Councillor Van Hitterson.
Yes.
Councillor Palmer.
Yes.
Councillor McBurney.
Yes.
And Reeve Bailey.
Yes.
So that motion carries 7-0.
We're going to go to correspondence next. 8.1 Economic Development and Recovery Committee RE request to send a letter of additional funding to increase meat processing services. That the Council of the Corporation of the Township of North Huron hereby directs staff to submit a letter in the Honourable Ernie Hardeman, Ontario Minister of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs, and the Honourable Marie Klaus, forgive me, BU, is that Federal Minister of Agriculture and Agri-Food for the copy of and a copy to the Honourable Lisa Thompson, Huron Bruce MVP, and Huron County Warden Glenn McNeil, seeking additional funding to increase meat production capacity in order to address a growing demand for abattoir services across this province. Just give me a sec. Okay, thank you. Do I have a mover? I have Anita moving. Do I have a seconder? I have Rick McBurney seconding. I'm going to open it up to the floor now. Go ahead, Anita.
Yeah, the North Huron Economic Development and Recovery Committee is asking council support to send a letter for additional funding to increase meat and poultry processing services. Huron County has a rich agricultural history. The county's Economic Development Agricultural Officer is hosting some very interesting information sessions right now to attract new and existing farmers to explore niche and value-added products and markets. Starting an abattoir and increasing slaughtering capacity is one of them. Ontario has long been underserved in local meat processing. Increasing costs, regulations, and labor shortages forced many abattoirs to close. Local abattoirs booking are in 2022 right now. Consumers prefer locally raised meat and poultry, supporting the local farmers, processors, and the local economy. In November 2020, a $4 million meat processing plant upgrade funding was announced. In 8 days, the full amount was gone. The concern was that larger scale plants with more human resources staff available to devote to paperwork pick up the bulk of the money. The Economic Development Committee would like Council to send a letter to our government to ask for more funds towards the meat processor capacity improvement initiative, in the hope that our local abattoirs can have a fair chance of the grant to offset their efforts to grow, modernize, and promote our local economic well-being.
Thank you, Anita. I want to just say that Anita and I were both at the Huron County Economic Development meeting over abattoirs last week. It was quite a meeting. It was a long one, but it was interesting. Some of the interesting things are the fact that, as Anita has pointed out, some of these farmers are holding this meat 1 year, 2 year longer than they should. And we all know anybody sitting on product, I don't care what line of work you're in, it costs money. We also know that right here, the Greens meat market too were turned down for funding on their redevelopment. So they should have got funding too. but I'm sure I speak for both Anita and myself when they say it was very interesting, and it pointed out a lot of things that I did not know or understand, had to dwell on for a while. But the bottom line is, I don't care whether you're running a store, a factory, or a farm. If you're sitting on product, it's costing you money. You can't sit on it. So, anybody else? Not seeing any. I'm going to hand it over. I think I've got a mover, do I not?
Yeah, Chris here.
Okay, thank you. Carson?
Through you, Reeve.
Yep. Sorry.
Anita, did you contact the Federation, Christian Farmers? Because that's in their backyard, information like that.
Yes, they should know about the information. The County Economic Development have sent out their newsletters and emails and all of that. But this is a request from the Economic Development Committee. It's not has nothing to do with OFA or Huron County Federation of Agriculture. I've tried to contact them and ask them to put more information out on social media regarding all the workshops that the county is doing right now for agriculture, because they're really, really good.
I know, but it's important to have them working on your side too, because they've got more muscle than your committee does. You know, I commend you for doing something. Yeah. That's fine, but they're the ones with the pull. And it's not just here in county. I don't care where a packer goes, as long as it's in Ontario somewhere. You know, that's the important part.
Yeah,
if we ever get one again.
Just to help Anita out here, our Economic Development Committee, Chris, is not set up or have the manpower to reach out to individuals. We're just a group of volunteers trying to work towards a better tomorrow, and this is what came of it. So just so you know, it's not like the Federation where we have actual staff or designated people. So, in all fairness to Anita, she's doing this as a volunteer too. Just so we understand. Go ahead, Anita.
Chris, if that pleases you, we might send a copy to the Huron County Federation of Agriculture as well, so that we are very supportive of our local economy and are very aware of what's going on with all these workshops and grant money that is going to bigger companies and not to our local economy.
Please do.
Okay. Anyone else? Go ahead, Trevor.
Yeah, I think ultimately what Councillor Palmer is saying is that if we're copying the Honorable Lisa Thompson, why don't we just copy the presidents of both the Huron County Federation and the Christian Farmers Federation? It is really just copying everybody as it relates to farming in Ontario. We'll just support that we know that they know we're looking at it, and then they can look at it as well.
Thank you. Mr. Palmer, my apologies. I thought you were on a different track, so my apologies. You were on the right track. I've been corrected. Okay. I do not believe I have a mover or a seconder.
You do, your worship. So your mover is Councillor Van Hittersum and your seconder is Councillor McBurney. So they would need to be both in favor of the requested changes. But just to clarify, so you're looking to also copy the Ontario Federation of Agriculture or the Huron County Federation of Agriculture?
Chris,
I think you should spread it out as much as you can. So both. And the Christian Farmers.
And what was the last one? Sorry, Chris, the Christian Farmers?
That's right.
Okay, so the draft motion on the floor would be that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of North Huron hereby directs staff to submit a letter to the Honourable Ernie Hardeman, Ontario Minister of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs, the Honourable Marie-Claude Bibeau, Federal Minister of Agriculture and Agri-Food, with a copy to the Honourable Lisa Thompson, Huron-Bruce MPP, the Ontario Federation of Agriculture, the Huron County Federation of Agriculture, the Christian Farmers, and Huron County Warden Glenn McNeil seeking additional funding to increase meat processing capacity in order to address a growing demand for abattoir services across the province. So Councillor Van Henderson as the mover and Councillor McBurney as the seconder. Are you okay with those changes?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so the motion is on the floor, so this will be a recorded vote. So Councillor Heffer, Councillor Van Henderson,
Yes.
Councillor Palmer,
Yes.
Councillor McBurney,
Yes.
Deputy Reeve Sipe, Deputy Reeve Sipe, I think you were muted there.
Yes.
Councillor Falconer,
Yes.
and Reeve Bailey.
Yes.
So that motion carries 7-0.
Okay, thank you. 8.2, Chris McNeil saved the OFC. Request for a letter of support to save the Ontario Fire College. That the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby direct staff to provide a letter of support requesting that the province of Ontario revise their decision to close the Ontario Fire College campus in Gravenhurst, as the OFC is one of the best and most cost-efficient methods for municipalities to train their own firefighters, which assists us in protecting our residents. And further, that the letter be forwarded to the Honorable Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario, and the Honorable Sylvia Jones, Ontario Solicitor General, and the Honorable Steve Clark, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, and the Ontario Fire Marshal, John Pegg. Do I have a mover? I have Kevin moving. I have Paul seconding. Let's open it up for comments, questions, concerns. We have
so Reeve Bailey, I was just going to say before you open it up there, just to explain. So municipalities all have received this request from the group called Save the Ontario Fire College, and the fire chief is certainly on the line, who could speak to the implications of the closure if there is any on North Huron. He is aware that we've received this correspondence.
Thank you very kindly. Did you want to speak to this, Marty?
The only thing that I would say is I would recommend that you support the motion. However, we have been informed that they've already made the decision up. So our next step is to lobby the government and try to get some of these funds that they put towards the fire college into the regional training centers and support that way. So it would make the registration fees for the courses, a little bit lower than what they are right now at the regional training centers. So I would recommend support the motion. However, just to know that we are working towards these other steps as well.
Thank you kindly. I had Deputy Reeve Sipe first, and then Councillor Falconer second.
Yeah, I guess my question was really for Marty, is that how often, or I know now that the STC isn't available or we aren't using that, how often are we sending people to the Ontario Fire College?
So through you, Reeve, we haven't sent too many to the fire college. It's very, very difficult to get into it. When the registration opens up, they get filled up pretty quickly. We're fortunate here that we do a lot of our training in-house, but we still need the college to, I guess, get the certification that's required. So that's still going to be available. However, there are times where we would like to send them to the regional training centers, like when the STC was open, and it just gets them their certification quicker. So there'll be the odd time where we will need to send them to the training centers.
Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Kevin.
Thank you. Through you, Reeve, to Marty. You mentioned something about all the training personnel that North Huron has now is all accredited and sanctioned through the Ontario Fire College to the curriculum of the Ontario Fire Chiefs Association. Without the college there to co-sign on the signing ability for signing off firefighters, who is taking that responsibility? And does the firefighters, the training firefighters, lose their certification now that they don't have anyone to sign off with them?
No, the Fire College administration is still going to be intact. They're moving everything to Toronto. They have an office in Midhurst as well. It's just the college itself was closing. The administration will be intact, so they will provide all that administration, sign off, all that kind of stuff as well.
Thank you.
They're going to have the main instructors from the Fire College are still employed, and they're going to become regional instructor advisors.
Okay, thank you very much, Marty. Okay. Anyone else? I believe I do have movers for that, do I not, Carson?
That's correct, Your Worship.
Okay, thank you. Okay, do roll call.
So Councillor Palmer? Councillor McBurney?
Yes.
Deputy Reeve-Sight?
Yes.
Councillor Falconer?
Yes.
Councillor Heffer?
Yes.
Councillor Van Hitterson?
Yes.
And Reeve Bailey.
Yes.
So that motion carries 7-0.
8.3 is Rob Van Asken, Tucker Smith Communications request that the Council of Township of North Huron hereby direct staff to send a letter to support the Tucker Smith Communication to be sent to Industrial Canada to support the funding to expand fiber internet. Would somebody like to move that?
So with this one, Your Worship, I guess I'd just elaborate that Dwayne and myself did receive additional information on the nature of this request today, in addition to what was included on the agenda package. So Dwayne, I don't know if you have that in front of you, whether you wanted to provide additional information on the request. And the one thing we both noted is that I don't believe any of the fiber being expanded would be into the North Huron boundaries, but it would be the Tucker Smith Communications boundaries in our neighboring municipalities.
Dwayne, did you want to speak to that?
Yeah, through your worship. I don't have a lot of information to add other than, as Carson has indicated, the fiber optic internet expansion, is more, I'll call it Huronese, but certainly I feel a lot of support will certainly help them. It is proposing to service 1,200 homes or farms, approximately 660 kilometers of new fiber will be deployed. And if you have that map in front of you, it gives everyone in the highlighted area a fiber connection. So certainly a step in the right direction. The project there would start in 2022 with a completion date of 2026. So that's kind of the time frame that they're looking at with that particular project. But certainly, this is certainly rural broadband has certainly been a topic of discussion by our Economic Development Committee. And as much as, it doesn't directly affect North Huron in terms of our area, but, anything I would suggest that supports fiber optic expansion is certainly something that as municipality we would want to support.
I'm just going to follow up that too, guys, with at the county level, we've been dealing with the Western Wardens Caucus, and they're supporting SWIFT, a group of people that are supposed to shouldn't say supposed to, that are helping us get fiber optic. In the conversations I've had with them, or we've had together as a council, Roger Watt is one of our representation at the SWIFT board level. I'm not sure how many millions of dollars or what we've all through time put in here in counties put in, but he's quite adamant that we're never going to see anything from that. If we do, we will be the last one on the rung. I have sent a letter off to the president of SWIFT asking for information in return and have never received it. It's like they don't know who we are. But we have a chair through the county on that, and there's millions of dollars, and I believe it's provincial funding that is supposed to be the counterpart to the money we put into it. It's supposed to go for farmland, for rural, but when I look at a map of it, they seem to think rural is all around London, Sarnia, Kitchener. I guess they haven't seen real rural in the real life. So anyway, well, I won't babble on about that, but yes, I think we're going to have to, as our economic development has pointed out, step up for ourselves, or it's just not going to happen. So I would suggest supporting this motion. Thank you. Trev, did you want to say something?
I'm just, I think anything that we can support in the area in Huron County as it relates to broadband by any of our small, telecommunications companies, if we can help get them on the map with Industry Canada or anything like that, I think that's going to help us in the long run.
Okay, go ahead, Christopher.
I'm all for this. Just like Deputy Reeve Sype says, anything that helps is a good thing. Have we had conversation with Mr. Aiken about Van Aiken about are they going to expand even beyond where they are, or Huron Tel? Really, I don't know if they have borders. If these companies have their little niches and nobody ventures in, I don't know. But you know, we've got to talk with our local ones, and if Tucker Smith Communications wants to come our way, that would light a fire under Huron Tel.
I'll just reply to that. We have Huron Tel and TCC, I think it is, Anita, help me what's in Blythe there. Somebody from Blythe. We have two companies that and they are part of our recovery team, and they do come to our meetings, and we do have the very same and sometimes strong discussions with them about moving forward. And I have got personal responses from both of them, especially from Huron Tel. I can't say enough about their new manager. We are talking together, but COVID did hit, and everything's just gone sideways on us. Having said that, at our economic development team, we do work on it, and we have a special meeting we have with Lisa Thompson, Ben Lobb, the two telecommunication people in our area, staff, and I forget who all's on it. We need to have another meeting. Okay, so again, I'm starting to ramble, so I won't. I'm getting tired. I apologize. Anybody else want to speak to this? Not seeing any. I think I have movers. Do I not, Carson?
You still need a mover and a seconder, Your Worship.
Thank you. I have Trevor moving. Anita seconding. It's all yours, Carson.
Thank you, Your Worship. So the motion on the floor is that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby directs staff to send a letter of support to Tucker Smith Communications to be sent to Industry Canada in support of funding to expand fiber optic internet. So Councillor McBurney?
Yes.
Deputy Reeve Sype? Councillor Falconer? Councillor Heffer?
Yes.
Councillor Van Henderson?
Yes.
Councillor Palmer?
Yes.
And Reeve Bailey?
Yes.
So that motion carries 7-0.
Thank you very kindly. We're going to go down to council reports. We're going to start with the Reeves report. As I mentioned earlier, Anita and I were both at the county meeting about helping the abattoirs out and creating new abattoirs. It was interesting that Greens never came up in the conversation, and I was talking to Kevin today, as I said, and I forgot to ask him if anybody had reached out to him. I do apologize. I will follow up on that. Been talking to the developers again. We have a few developers that are starting to knock on the door, and a few emails from the other side of the world to let us know they are moving along. They still have plans on developing this spring, which is good. We're down to just a few more, and then they'll get the big okay from their companies. I am going to be meeting with the county tomorrow, myself and Dwayne. We're going to be talking, as I said earlier, we're going to be talking about cross borders, but it didn't start out, it's not really to do with Morris Turnberry and North Huron, just so everybody fully understands. It was about the county wanting to have something in place when you're doing different things and you want to build a building or whatever. It's all going to be part of a little book you're going to get, and you'll be able to go to it and say, well, this is what we should follow. I just felt, and I spoke out at county, that they pigeonholed that, and I don't believe in pigeonholing. There should be 3 or 4 alternatives. I've demonstrated many times from 2014, the 7 or 8 that are on that list, and I would like to see that on there. That's about it for me this week that I can think of right now. So I'm going to move it on to council member reports, either verbal or written reports from members who sit on boards or committees. Is there anybody sitting on a board or committee who would like to update us? I'm going to start with Paul, and I'm going to end with Trevor. You're muted.
To Reeve. Yeah, Sustainable Huron met again, and their thing this time was waste reduction. They had on Wendy from the Centralia, the Bra recycling spot down there. And again, they started off as, just like we all start off as a little wee person in 89. 32 years later, they're at 87,000 households and 5,000 commercial and schools, that commercial buildings and schools. And they have all of Huron County except for us, Howick, and ACW. So maybe down the road, maybe that'd be somebody Jamie be able to talk to and just see how they do. But they also do around below London, the Middlesex area. And so it is very interesting in just what they go through and the problem. And it's going to be put on the end user, I think, by the way it sounds like it's going. And then they had Bruce Davidson from Walkerton. We all remember that back at the water trouble they had there. And they talked a bit about what they're doing with the styrofoam and that clear plastic and just different methods they're doing. Very interesting one. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. Trevor? Trev?
Yes, Reeve. I just wanted to, I'm cutting in and out, so I'm not sure if I've got the floor, but I will assume that I am until I'm told otherwise. I just wanted to let everybody know that the BIA AGM was held last Thursday. The BIA approved its budget. It will be sent to Donna. There was a new board member, Ali Sieber, Peyton Sieber, I believe is her name. She was brought onto the board. Obviously, it needs to come to council. It's going to come to council for ratification, but she's part of the new board that has been approved by the membership of the BIA. I did want to mention that the BIA is still anticipating putting, as part of their work plan, finalizing the LED sign at 84 and 86 this year as one of their major goals as it relates to 2021. They have planned their budget accordingly to be as a normal year, no COVID related, but just put it in as normal year and then work with that budget within the constraints of what we're at. So that's really the only other committee or comments as I wanted to have is that I am sitting on the community Wingham Community Connectors group. They are working out a pilot project as to relates to welcome bags for newcomers to the town of Wingham. And I've talked to them as I've been working with going to be following up with real estate agents and those types of things to see if there's some appetite to get on to help with this project as it relates to even expanding it, not even just to newcomers in Wingham, but newcomers in North Huron as I believe it is an important aspect of, economic development, community, and that type of stuff. So where people can get their stuff, their services and that type of stuff when they move to North Huron is always a delicate balance for newcomers. So the William Community Connectors is working on a plan or hope to make that a little more streamless with help from North Huron staff as it relates to the website, but also working with themselves on trying to get a project together as to how it works in the community. So I will be able to bring back something more as things progress, but that's really all I had. If there's any questions or something.
Thank you very much, Deputy Reeve Sipes. Go ahead, Rick. You're muted, Rick. Rick, unmute yourself.
Through you, Reeve Bailey, in regards to our CHIP program, we're in the early stages of rolling out the cutout constable. We don't know exactly how it's going to take place yet. We got, like I said, it's the early stages. One spot we're thinking about is maybe approaching Public Works somehow in regards to who picks it up and puts them out and where we decide to locate them. Couple things we got to be concerned about is vandalism, or maybe he'll end up in somebody's rec room sometime, who knows. But anyway, that's that cutout constable. Anyway, that's all I have at this point.
Did you ever give it any thought to maybe putting it on the four corners at Wingham here? Anyway, do any other councillors have anything they would like to bring forward? I know, I'm always in trouble. Okay, I'm not seeing any, so we'll move on. Bylaws. We have no notice of motion.
So Reeve Bailey, you're just in the comments by member section now. So that was council member reports.
I'm really slipping tonight, guys. Comments by members. Not seeing any. Oh, Anita, go ahead. You're muted.
Yeah, I just have a question. Is staff already working on when we can have our meetings in person again? Is there some kind of a protocol or guidelines that we have to follow?
So through you, Reeve Bailey, to Councillor Van Hittersum. So staff have a senior management team meeting scheduled for Wednesday, where we'll be discussing the implications of the move to the yellow color code. So that would certainly be a part of that discussion.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Anita. Anyone else? For sure not seeing any this time. Okay, we're going to move on to, there's no notice of motion. Bylaws 11.1, that the bylaw number 16-2021 being a bylaw to authorize the use of telephone and internet voting as an alternative voting method for the 2022 municipal election for the Township of North Huron be read a first, second, third, and final time and signed by the Reeve and clerk and engrossed in the bylaw books. Do I have a mover? I have Kevin and I have Anita, and Carson, it's all yours.
Thank you, Your Worship. So Deputy Reeve Sipe. Councillor Falconer.
Yes.
Councillor Heffer.
Yes.
Councillor Van Hittersum.
Yes.
Councillor Palmer.
Yes.
Councillor McBurney.
Yes.
And Reeve Bailey.
Yes.
So that motion carries 7-0.
The bylaw number 17-2021 being a bylaw to amend bylaw number 82-208 as amended, being the zoning bylaw of the Corporation of the Township of North Huron for a zoning bylaw amendment as it applies to part lot 30, concession 14, East Wawanosh Court, 86601 Beecroft Line. Township of North Huron be introduced, read a first, second, third, and final time and signed by the Reeve and clerk and engrossed in the bylaw books. Do I have movers? I have Paul Heffer moving and I have Rick McBurney seconding.
So Councillor Falconer.
Yes.
Councillor Heffer,
Yes.
Councillor Van Hittersum, Councillor Palmer,
Yes.
Councillor McBurney,
Yes.
Deputy Reeve Sipe,
No.
and Reeve Bailey.
Yes.
So that motion carries 6-1 with the no being Deputy Reeve Sipe.
Thank you. Bylaw number 18, 2021. That the bylaw number 18, 2021 being a bylaw to amend the official plan of the Corporation of the Township of North Huron as amended. 14. As it applies to part lot 30, concession 14, East Wawanosh Ward, 86601 Beecroft Line, Township of North Huron, be introduced and read a first, second, third, and final time to be signed by the Reeve and clerk and engrossed in the bylaw books. Do I have a mover and seconder? I have Kevin Faulkner and I have Chris Palmer seconding.
So Councillor Heffer?
Yes.
Councillor Van Hittersum? Councillor Palmer?
Yes.
Councillor McBurney? Deputy Reeve Sipe?
No.
Councillor Falconer?
Yes.
And Reeve Bailey.
Yes.
So that motion carries 6-1 with the no being Deputy Reeve Sipe.
Okay, the next announcements. The next regular council meeting will be held on Monday, March 15th, 2021 at 6 p.m. through electronic participation. A special council meeting will be held on Friday, March 26, 2021 at 9 a.m. through electronic participation. The next museum committee meeting will be held on Thursday, March 11, 2021 at 2 p.m. through electronic participation. The next police services board meeting will be held on Tuesday, March 16th, 2021 at 7 p.m. in the North Huron Town Hall Theater. The next Economic Development and Recovery Committee meeting will be held on Thursday, March 18th, 2021 at 2 p.m. through electronic participation. The next Wingham BIA Board meeting will be held on Thursday, March 18th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. through electronic participation. And the next Blythe BIA Board will be held on Thursday, March 25th, 2021 at 8 a.m. through electronic participation. Okay, other business. Notice of motion to consider a request from Deputy Reeve motion to reconsider process. Carson, do you want to read this one off? I forget our conversation earlier how this went.
Yep, so Reeve Bailey, I can just clarify the process for a motion to reconsider. So I briefly touched on it last meeting, and the one thing I wanted to note that would, I said that in order to reconsider a motion, you would need 2/3 majority of council, which would be 5 out of 7 members. However, after reading a little further into the procedure bylaw, once you pass that 1 year mark, you only require a simple majority of council in order to reconsider a motion or a previously decided matter. So instead of 5 out of 7 required to reconsider, you need just only 4 out of 7 instead. So similar to any notice of motion, it's not up for debate. Basically, the requester of the motion, in this case being Deputy Reeve Sipe, has the ability to kind of make a statement regarding the motion of why they put this motion forward. And then if council was to vote in favor of the motion to reconsider, then your next agenda item on this agenda would actually be having that discussion. So basically, if the motion carries, your next item of business would be a discussion about the reconsideration of the opt-out of cannabis retail stores in North Huron. So I guess at this point, the draft, the notice of the motion itself is provided by Deputy Reeve Sipe is there. So at this point, if Deputy Reeve Sipe has any statement he wants to make in relation to that, otherwise we'll move into a vote.
Trevor?
Yes, sir. Yeah, the only comment I want to make is that we know now more than we did when we made the original opt-out. So my reason for the reconsideration is just that we know more information, and if information can come forward that we know differently than now, and then we can reconsider. If council wants to reconsider it, great. If they would wish to leave it as is, that's their position. So really, I think that's the comment that I wanted to make. That's the reason why I made the notice of motion.
Okay, thank you very kindly. Okay, so the motion is on the floor. Do I have a mover? I have Kevin moving. Do I have a second?
So your mover would be Deputy Reeve Sight.
Yeah, sorry, seconded by Kevin then, sorry. Carson?
So the motion on the floor is that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby agrees to reconsider its previous decision to opt out of cannabis retail stores in North Huron. So this would be a recorded vote. So Councillor Palmer?
Yes.
Councillor McBurney?
Yes.
Deputy Reeve Sight?
Yes.
Councillor Falconer?
Yes.
Councillor Heffer? Councillor Heffer, sorry, you might have been muted there.
No.
Councillor Van Hittersum?
Yes.
And Reeve Bailey.
Yes.
So the motion carries 6-1 with the no being Councillor Heffer. So now your next item of business is you are able to discuss the reconsideration of that matter.
Thank you. So I'm going to open up to the floor then. Trevor has said his piece and we have read what he's talking about on this reconsideration. Would any councillor like to speak? Go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah, I'd just like to add the point that any consumers within North Huron would still are going outside of our municipality to purchase through the government, and I don't see the difference between whether it's whether we allow it here or there. I mean, the consumption is always going to be available now that it's been provincially and federally ratified and legalized. So having any constraints on someone's ability to pursue that as a viable business, I don't see why we should stand in their way.
Thank you, Kevin. Anyone else? Go ahead, Chris.
I'd like to make a motion to direct.
We have a motion. We have a motion on the floor, Chris. We have a motion on the floor that we're discussing, and then you can bring that up.
I thought we.
Reeve Bailey, just to clarify, so there is no motion on the floor.
Oh.
The motion that to reconsider was passed, so now you're having a discussion. So Councillor Palmer can certainly make a motion at this time, as staff will need direction as to how to proceed, whether it's opting in, whether it's providing more information, etc.
Again, I do apologize, Chris. I'm not picking on you. I'm just not feeling very good tonight, all day, 3 days. Go ahead.
Okay, you're forgiven, Reeve.
Again.
I'd like to make a motion to direct staff to investigate the implications of having a cannabis retail store with the, the AGCO, and also with any local community or municipality that has one. I know there's one in Listowel. And also to contact the potential vendor so that they can provide some information, input for us to help us to determine the situation.
I'll give Carson a second to capture that.
So this is very rough right now. So Councillor Palmer, feel free to amend as you see fit. But basically right now, the motion reads that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby directs staff to prepare a follow-up report investigating the potential impact of the opt-in to cannabis retail stores with the AGCO as well as local municipalities that opted in. And further, that staff be directed to contact the local business, requesting them to provide additional information on their plans for a cannabis retail store.
Much better.
So you have a mover for that, Reeve Bailey?
Do I have a seconder? I have Anita second.
So if there's no further comments or questions on that motion, looks
there
like
is.
we have one.
Sorry, yeah, Kevin Faulkner just put his hand up.
Yeah, just so you, Reeve, I'm just curious. There's already a vendor of hemp byproducts in Township of North Huron. I just would want to put that up. There's on the main street of Wingham. So the one thing or another, I agree with it, but I think there's already a byproduct store in town.
Oh, the place is going up in smoke. Go ahead, Chris.
I asked that question of the vendor, and he says, the owner of the store, actually, sorry, the potential store, he said that it's only a store. I haven't been in there, so I don't know. It's only a store that sells paraphernalia, like, I don't know, but just paraphernalia.
Oh, the old 70 head shop. Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else? Not seeing any. Okay, Carson, carry on.
Thank you, Your Worship. So this will be a recorded vote. So Councillor McBurney?
Yes.
Deputy Reeve Sight?
Yes.
Councillor Falconer?
Yes.
Councillor Heffer?
No.
Councillor Van Hittersum?
Yes.
Councillor Palmer?
Yes.
And Reeve Bailey?
Yes.
So that motion carries 6-1 with the no being Councillor Heffer.
Just before we won't move on, I just want to make a kind of a cute comment here. So you guys all do realize that I think it's about 10,000 square feet of brand new building is housing marijuana in North Huron, but we've never allowed them to sell it. No closed session tonight. Confirmation of the bylaw. Confirmatory bylaw, that the bylaw number 19, 2021 being a bylaw to adopt, confirm, and ratify matters dealt with by the Council of Township of North Huron at the March 1st, 2021 meeting be introduced and read a first, second, third, and final time. Be signed by the Reeve and clerk and engrossed in the bylaw books. Do I have a mover? I have Kevin. And I have Rick as a seconder. Go ahead, Carson.
Thank you, Your Worship. So Deputy Reeve Sight?
Abstain.
Councillor Falconer?
Yes.
Councillor Heffer?
Yes.
Councillor Van Hittersum?
Yes.
Councillor Palmer?
Yes.
Councillor McBurney?
Yes.
And Reeve Bailey?
Yes.
So that motion carries 6-0.
Adjournment, that the Council Township of North Huron agrees there being no further business before Council. The meeting hereby adjourns at 9:25 p.m. Do I have a mover? I have Rick McBurney and I have Anita seconding it. Right, Carson?
Thank you, Your Worship. So Councillor Falconer?
Yes.
Councillor Heffer?
Yes.
Councillor Van Hittersum?
Yes.
Councillor Palmer?
Yes.
Councillor McBurney?
Yes.
Deputy Reeve Sight?
Yes.
And Reeve Bailey?
Yes.
So that motion carries 7-0.
Stay safe, everyone. We'll talk again.